All right, family, we are live. I'm back here. It is Saturday, 1 p.m., like I said, and I'm here with Brother Jermaine Morris, right?
Yes.
Great. I've been thinking of Morris, and I think it's Stevie Wonder, so I'm so sorry.
My family, most of them are musicians.
Really? Okay, so I wasn't too far off.
No.
So thank you for coming to talk with me.
Oh, thank you for having me.
All right. So first of all, tell me, where did you grow up at?
I'm from Sacramento, California, Lincoln Village, to be specific.
Really?
Familiar from there, yep.
I am Betty's Kitchen, Doc's Tavern. That's the only way I know Lincoln Village.
Okay, if you know Lincoln Village, you know the Chinese market, the liquor loft. I went to A.M. Elementary School.
Okay.
You know, if you're a little longer in the tooth around my generation, everybody in Lincoln Village knew Miss Cooper. House was directly across the street from A.M.
Wow.
Like, I'm from Lincoln Village. So.
All right. So, what's been your journey? What schools did you go to since you named one of them?
A lot. So I went to A.M. from preschool till 5th grade. 6th grade, I went to Isidore Cohen. 7th grade, I went to Albert Einstein. 7th grade, I went to Joseph Kerr. Still in 8th grade, I was part of Joseph Kerr. Left there, went to Star King. After Star King, I graduated from Rio Americano High School.
Okay. What was it like going to Rio Americano?
So when people say I'm from Sacramento, I'm from Sacramento. Most people think that they're from a little niche or neighborhood.
Right.
I went from over off of Bradshaw, Lincoln Village, to over by Elk Grove, moved over off of Gerber, over to Carmichael, and it was, I would say that it would have been more of a shock had my elementary school been different. So so Lincoln Village in the 80s, predominantly black. And so every classroom I was in, there was maybe 1 or 2 non-black students.
Wow.
Back then. So, but when I went to Isidore Cohen in the 6th, so apparently I tested well in the 1st grade. And typically when you do well in on this particular test, they want to send you to this, a smarter, better school that had more resources. Mm-hmm. They send you in the 2nd grade. So then you have the second through 6th in this particular system. I didn't go until the 6th grade. So when I got there in the 6th, it was with a bunch of kids who'd been together since 1st or 2nd grade. Gotcha. And I was the only black student in the classroom.
Oh, wow.
So that's where the initial shock hit. I only knew one other kid in that whole school, and he was a kid that was with me in the 1st grade, and then his parents put him in that school the 2nd grade. I hadn't seen him since, and then we were together in the 6th grade. That was the only kid I knew in the entire school. So Rio, that transition was a little bit easier. Going to Carmichael, it was still hard, but I had already felt it once. So I already went through that initial culture shock in the 6th grade, and then we bounced around a little bit and then ended up in Carmichael. That's where I finished my 8th grade year in high school.
How was your high school years?
Not the best.
Why was it not the best?
So my 8th grade, my junior high school years were a little difficult. And I was having a hard time getting acclimated to where I was. And I had a lot of unchecked emotions, which led me to have a certain degree of anger.
All right. And
so when I would get to school, I didn't bring my problems home, but I took my chip with me. So when I would get to school, I started fighting. So I didn't like where I was. I didn't like the school I was at. I didn't like the environment I was in. And along with some personal things like family stuff, that all manifested itself in you can get these hands. So that's what middle school turned into. So I was getting suspended a few times. Like, it was just an issue. So by the time I got to high school, I think that things line up for a particular reason. Let me preface something first.
Okay.
The way that I think, because the way that I will tell a story or deliver it, for some people may be difficult to follow. I always recommend you might need a pad and pencil for some of the quotes you might hear, some of the words I might use, because I bounce around a little bit. My thought process is a little off. So when I follow things, when I tell stories, if I was to go through elementary school right now, they'd probably say I had some kind of learning disability. I'm serious.
I can believe it.
So the way that the language that I speak to myself in my head is not the language that I'm speaking to you right now.
Okay.
Much like somebody who grew up in Russia. They speak all their thoughts in Russian, but they try to speak everything in English. The way that my brain works is I see a bunch of things in a Okay. So the old way, maybe you go to an electronics store, like a Walmart or something. Imagine you go, you see all the TVs, 50 different TVs on the wall.
Okay.
My brain works to where I can see a wall with 50 different TVs on it, and I can tell you what's going on all 50 of those TVs simultaneously. That's how my brain works. So my brain works, fires a bunch of images and pictures and stuff. So when I explain stuff, I use metaphors like a rapper. Like I always try to find points of reference to explain things. So that's just to give you a little heads up to follow along in the story I tell. My two older brothers had both dropped out of high school. The guys who were right above me. And so I had shifted my thought process to a why. I hated where I was at. I didn't like where I was going. This was not an uncomfortable environment, but my mom was going through some things at the time. And I had developed a why in the sense of, I said, if I can't do nothing else in this life, I'm going to make sure my mom sees her son graduate high school. So by the time I got to the 9th grade, I didn't work through my feelings. I just put them on hold. So I got through the next 4 years. I didn't get in any more fights. I didn't get suspended anymore. I got through my 4 years of high school and graduated.
All right.
So it was a lot of teeth grinding and deep breaths and difficulty through those 4 years. And my senior year was probably the easiest because by then I already had my little friend circle. I was working. I had a car. Like my life was a little lighter. I had 2 jobs in high school, but it was a little easier for me personally. But it wasn't really a fun experience. My high school years. That's a lot.
Okay.
I say I bounce around a lot.
No.
That's why.
I think that if some of us had the opportunity to take the time to really look at some things and explain it, it would be hard to explain how you survived a bunch of stuff. Or how you figured your way through things, or some people it was like a fall, or I was so busy doing this right here that I had to put some things away because I had to survive right here or do whatever I can do right here.
Yeah.
So I'm totally following you. When you were in high school, how did you know what you wanted to do? Or you just kind of had a series of jobs, or did you off to college?
While I was in high school?
Right when you got to the end of your senior year, what was your plans?
Okay, so originally my goal, I wanted to graduate high school. I wanted to study biomedical engineering.
Okay.
I wanted to be a geneticist. That was one of the big things in my head. But I'd always had a passion for writing and language. So even since I was like first, second grade, I used to write stories and plays, and that was like my wheelhouse where I could really work stuff out, was writing. So even though genetics and stuff really fascinated me, my passion was more in the language. So the upside to my high school years, Rio was a really good school. So it had a lot of prominent people in the city of Sacramento. Their kids went there. And so they had booster club meetings. So they had a lot of resources at that school. So for as much as I didn't like the personal aspects, there was a lot of good reasons to go to that high school. And so what my dumb behind did while I was there, I didn't fail the core necessary classes at times. I failed electives because my head wasn't in it. Okay. So I say that to say by the time I got to my senior year, I only had 2 real classes, but I needed to make credits. So I was at school from 7 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon taking all electives, which was probably, in retrospect, was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because in that senior year, I took speech, I took drama, I took choir, I took a bunch of things that had to do with, were all performance type stuff and speaking things. And I genuinely didn't really talk. I could write stuff out. And if you heard me speak, I used to make fun of you. Like I was a little stand-up comedian when it came to, like, that's how I filtered. Instead of you getting these hands, you don't get these words. Right, right. So I didn't fight anymore, but I just used to say stuff to make you want to hit me. Like I just had jokes like that. And so my senior year, I realized that I had something, the performance side. All my family were musicians, but I used to, once again, bounce around. Elementary school, I used to play classic violin. So I was into classical music. I used to play classical music from first grade into middle school. But I didn't take my family. They're all, soul, blues, funk musicians and singers and stuff. I didn't go that route so much. I did sing with the Sacramento Chamber Singer for a minute. My life is really, really a lot in a short period of time. So that's why I sound crazy when I explain it, which is typically why I don't. But my senior year I took all these electives, and I learned in speech, in choir, and perform and drama stuff, I could deliver messages well. Like that was also an escape for me. When I didn't like where I was at, I used to take in personas of people to deliver. So in school, so bouncing around here. So middle school, we had to start giving presentations. I used to hate standing up in front of people and talking. Anybody who knows me now, that sounds crazy. But if you knew me as a kid, my life now would sound crazy to you because all I do is talk in front of people. I used to hate it. So what I used to do was mimic different comedians and give my presentations that way. So I would give a history presentation as Damon Wayans. Okay. You know what I mean? As like the comedians that I liked growing up, that kind of persona, the way that their cadence for jokes was how I would deliver presentations. As I got into some awkward stuff in high school, my default went into that. So I started mimic performances, and I enjoyed it.
Okay.
That's what started to segue me into more of my life, what it is now, as opposed to what I thought I wanted it to be then. My brain was saying the more technical side, the research stuff, whatever, but more of who I was coming out, myself coming more out as, was more speaking to people and being in front of people.
So let me ask you, as a young man, you're given a really good basis like that, root, like a foundation.
Yeah.
Did you have any questions around your identity, or did you feel like, and this happens for some people, don't happen for everyone, being in a place where you're not seeing yourself as much, did that matter at all? Did that shake your foundation of who am I? You ever been harassed by the police? You ever not get a job because, I don't know, stereotypes? Like, did you have any of that in your world?
Some. So the whole knowing who I was, no, because by the time all that transition changed, I already had a solid foundation. Like, since where I grew up, it was both parents in the home. It was in a predominantly black neighborhood. It was the old school neighborhood to where if you did something on your way home from school, there was 3 phone calls to the house before you got there. Yeah. Everybody knew your mama and your daddy. Like, it was that neighborhood.
Right.
So I didn't have a cultural identity issue or anything like that. I knew who it was, you know. Racial stuff, oh yeah, I was called a nigga in the 6th grade. Like, that was a culture shock. Like, that was, you know, that type of stuff started happening when I was the only black kid in the class. That's when I started getting that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. So one thing about me, I never had a question of knowing who I was. I just didn't understand people. So from a young age, I used to see people almost like I was an alien dropped off on the planet. I didn't understand human behavior because I would see what people would say, and then I would watch how people behaved. And I kept seeing so many inconsistencies that it never shifted to a moral aspect, like, oh, this person's a liar or they're deceitful or anything like that. It just shifted to confusion because what I hear come out of your mouth does not fit what I see you do, and it was just a stopping point. So as I was younger, anybody who knows me now, when I meet you, typically I don't say much off the bat. I watch you for a second, and based upon what you say and do tells me who you are. I started observing people when I was younger. And so I didn't have a question with knowing who I was. I just began focused on learning who you are. Like, I would see people and I was like, okay, well, let me see what who you are. That became a trend of mine early as a little kid. Once again, that's favorable to where I am now. That practice and that behavior of just watching people and seeing how they are and how they speak to each other and how they allow themselves to be spoken to, all that stuff was fascinating to me. And I think that's an important word too. Like, I just turned 40 in December. I'm still fascinated. Like, the world and people and things, like, I'm still fascinated with life. I'm still fascinated with how things are, much like a small child. I can be childish, but but I'm still fascinated. And that's something I hope I never lose. And so I'm constantly trying to learn and see and figure stuff out. Because I started that path of trying to figure people out, I started getting a bunch of points of reference about things. So now in my life, so if I do consultation work or if I'm dealing with people with problems, I've seen it before because I've spent so many years of my life assessing. Like, I've got a huge database of human behavior, which allows me to almost predict curves, patterns, and where someone's going to go and how something's going to happen, to where now that I've been successful in business. But that started as a kid, not because I didn't understand me, it's because I just didn't understand people. Okay.
So that's very good. So how does that transcend to your business life?
Okay, so another thing, my thought process.
Okay, yeah. I'm open.
I am not a linear thinker.
Okay.
Meaning, when you're in school, they teach you a timeline. Where in 1980 was this, 1985 was that, 1990 is that, and that life is just a linear pathway. That's not the way that I perceive life or the world. Okay. I believe that life is your past, your present, and your future are all existing simultaneously. It's how you can be 50 years old and you're still stuck in a position in your life from when you were 15. Predicting who you meet at 51. All those entities are happening at the same time. So how that shifted into business, per se, is that as I've going back to that's why I always go back and go forward. After I got out of high school, I went to college, went to American River College. to start off with. All I learned about college is I didn't want to be there.
All right.
So that's what I learned. That, and then I learned how to effectively study a little bit better. I learned the process of studying better. I just had a really good memory before, but actually learned some structured ways to study. That was pretty much it. So after I got out of there, I was working a bunch of just different jobs, you know, Taco Bell, Starbucks, that sort of stuff. And then I got into a business, which I would say, all intents and purposes, changed my life.
Right.
So I was working at Starbucks with some friends that I knew from high school. And just by sheer chance, me and a buddy went out. And we were, I was 19. And we were doing like a pool hall or something. And long story, I'm not going on that. And I ran into a dude who gave me a job opportunity. And he was telling me about the job that he had. He used to make a bunch of money in tips. Starbucks is why I started working tips, because Taco Bell was 2 checks and it was light. Starbucks, you got to check 1 week and then you got to check that little tip jar by the register. You got to pay for that the following week. So I was about that. Like, I was like, okay, you get cash and this and that, whatever. So dude worked at a club. And so he's like, hey man, you looking for a job? I was a bigger guy, a little lot smaller than I am now, but bigger. So I got working into bars and nightclubs, which then segued into a bunch of other parts of my life. So the college path was off. And so at 19, I started working in a strip club. So I was working at a nightclub and a strip club at 19. And from there, my life went it broke left.
How did it break left?
So
you could actually work in the stripper club and the bar and the club and still be cool, right?
Yeah, no, I was fine. Never got into drugs, never went on that path, whatever. But I got where I would be upside. I'm not one of the people who demonize the business because I got a lot of opportunities out of it. I made a lot of money at a very young age. And, you know, most of it I don't have anymore. But I burned through a lot of money as a young man. But I met a lot of people because everybody came through that business. So I met people who were in politics and media and TV and all kinds of stuff. All those relationships I made through those businesses led to a bunch of other jobs as I got older, to the point to where I was, you know, I found myself in a bunch of circles that I shouldn't have been in by my resume.
I get that.
You know, people always wonder, even people see me now, the first question is, what does he actually do? You know, because I was, you know, taking my brother courtside to the Lakers, going to the NFL draft, going to movie premieres and doing all kinds of stuff. A whole bunch of functions that my resume did not support. But just relationship building, which got me to, so we fast forward to now, just for where my business stuff now is. So between all the relationships I made, assessing people as I meet them, bunches of points of reference. I traveled. I spent almost my entire 20s traveling. So from 23 to almost 30, I was in Europe and South America and traveling around the country. So my points of reference of people, the different connections that I've made, and my ability to see patterns. I do business consultations now. You tell me what's wrong with your business. We were talking a little bit before about some of the things you want to do. I can see where the holes are and plug the gaps. Gotcha. When it comes to people that knew me personally kept having all these life problems. So from their life problems, I started writing this blog because I was tired of people calling me at 2 a.m. crying. So I was like, hey, refer to your notes. If I didn't write on the blog, check. From the blog came the radio show. So the station owner came across the blog. We got to a conversation and asked me if you ever want to do radio. That turned into the radio show. I've been doing that for the last 5 years. I started getting involved personally with community stuff that I didn't like seeing. And so I started to tap into some of my relationships and get involved. That meeting paired me with Barry Axios, which got me involved with a bunch of community stuff here, which is where probably most people in certain circles know me from now. But people know me in other circles as well. I think the better question, see, this is why I don't talk like this. But if you give me a direct question, I can probably follow it better.
Makes sense, because I think sometimes you can't always, if your life has been pretty ordinary, you need probably a direct question. But even if you ask a person a direct question, it will still lead to all of those experiences.
Ordinary in my life?
Yeah. No, I mean, it depends. Because I mean, I know you like travel, but it's like, I've traveled all over the place too, but it's always been for work. Like, even if it was for pleasure, I found work, because I'm concerned about what's happening with Black people all over the globe. Okay. So whether it's helping Dr. Luther build a clinic, which is not a hospital in Honduras, for the Griffin people, most Black folks never even heard of Griffin people. You know what I'm saying?
See, I wouldn't know that.
Right. See what I'm saying? So I just want to know. So I'm getting your business background, I'm getting your personal background, but then I also, brother, I want to know, how do you work with people? Like, have you ever worked with feminists before?
I'm sure I have.
How,
Do you mean like a feminist group?
yeah, like, you know, or a woman that's feminist.
Yes.
So how do you do that as a man? Because usually that's a question that I get asked a lot by brothers. It's like, oh, if you're a feminist, then it'd be hard to work with you. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, okay. Sometimes we work with people who are straight up Klansmen. We don't never say I can't work with Klan. No, but if they paying, you working.
Okay, I don't have that umbrella statement about anybody.
Okay.
So if you tell me how do you work with a feminist, it's the same as how do you work with a Jewish person, the same as how do you work with a tall person, the same as how do you work with a blind person. No, I don't have a preset narrative to what that individual. Could you give
relationship advice to someone like that?
Depends upon what the question is.
Okay, so one of the main ones I hear feminists talk about is how men are chauvinistic and you guys are not fair to women. And what kind of relationship advice would you give to?
Well, if you're,
I don't mean she's a feminist. I'm just saying.
If a woman said that the type of men that she deals with are chauvinistic in that they have an antiquated system of what they think that a gender role is supposed to be for a man and a woman, mm-hmm. I would say first, that's not the men universally. So I've come across far too many men who don't think that way. So first off is, what is it about you that you keep finding that type of mate? I would probably have to ask her questions about what type of men set the blueprint for the men that she finds. So if her father was of that mindset and he was chauvinistic, which might have been the trigger for why she became feminist, then that trigger, that little antenna is going to keep finding men of that mindset in that creed. So there's a degree of self-reflection would be to start with. But then I would say, whenever any woman tells me that she keeps finding the same type of wrong man, I say, find the dude that doesn't do it for you. Like, not the dude that you're not necessarily got to marry him or sleep with him, but date a dude that don't do nothing for you. Because you're stuck on a railroad track of a particular type of guy. You just have to get off that track. Now, you may jump 2, 3 before you get to the one you need to, but you just have to shake this up and get you off of where you are. And once you get around a dude, he may not do it for you, but there's going to be some points about him that you're going to learn something about a man that you don't normally get because you're only getting the same type of dude. So that's going to open the door to another type of man, to ultimately, hopefully, the man that it is that you're actually looking for. Or you may get enough points of reference that all dudes aren't like this, and that might be enough to shape what you're looking for in the first place and help you on a better path to finding the person you want. But I don't have any preset narrative on who somebody is. I allow you to show me who you are, and once you do that, I believe you. But I don't come to the table thinking you're going to be a certain way just because of a certain title.
What would you say if a man said that?
If a man said that the woman is?
Yeah, like, you know, all women are not, you know, up to par. They don't know their role. They don't know that, you know, what would you? And this is just in general.
So
that's something I always hear.
If a man says that all women are this, we're talking about a planet of 4.5 billion women.
Right.
So when you tell me all, we already can discredit that to a degree because right. I know you ain't putting in time like that.
Right.
So
I hope not.
Yeah, there's 4.5 billion women walking around the face of the earth. Right, so we know you ain't messing with all. So then I start to look at, okay, what is the track record pattern of women that you date? Mm-hmm. What are the women that you knew coming up? How many women were suggested to you that you said no, and what was the reason for it? Mm. Because there's a lot of times we sit there and say, I keep finding this one that's the wrong one. But yeah, my mama kept trying to introduce me to this girl. My sister said she had the perfect girl for me. Everybody at my job says so-and-so works out. Why don't you want them? Mm. She was boring, or she was this, or she was that. Okay, well, within that boredom is probably what you're looking for. Because all of that, she wants to stay home every night. She just want to go out and kick it. Usually you find those are the ones that stay home and cook and clean. You know what I'm saying? If you want one that's going to, quote unquote, play her position and keep it in pocket, but wants to turn up and do all this craziness that you into, that becomes there are out there, but that becomes a slimmer pool. So you got to start making decisions on what it is you want. Then you have to start, you know, prioritizing what your value system is. And biggest thing is whenever you start talking about assessing another human being for your mate or what you want to be involved with, do you even have a core set of values to base your mindset off of to begin with? Like, do you have any set principles, a set criteria for the way that you carry yourself and the circle that you allow around you to start with? Because if you don't have that, you're going to fall everywhere to where your feelings are, and you're not going to have anything rooted or stable. So if a dude tells me that, man, ain't none of these women out here trying to play their position, okay, what does play the position mean? Does that mean she cooks, she cleans, she takes care of home? Does that mean she doesn't work? Because if you're telling me you want a woman that's all about her paper, but then the house is out of smelling like pork chops and pine saw, and then you want to come home to the Freaknik,
Right.
like, first off, are you qualified? There's something I call as a relationship credit score.
All right. Relationship credit score.
Your relationship credit score, for all intents and purposes, that's an 800. That's an 800 individual. That you come home, she's all about taking care of the house, she's cooking, she's cleaning, she's this and that, and give you all the freakiness that you're looking for. That's an 800. If you are looking for an 800 woman with your 620 ass talking about, do you deserve this? There's a whole lot of people who ask for what they're not qualified for. So I'll start with you before I start with that, because the price of the car don't change. Let's talk about what's in your wallet. You know what I'm saying? So before, they ain't coming down off that sticker price. So let me see what you working with. All right, well, we may need to go over here instead.
All right.
You know, that's kind of something like the radio show is based upon different principles and stuff about life. That was one thing we did on Monday, was the principle is sometimes your soulmate is ugly. And what that means is that sometimes this is the life you deserve. Like, as much as you think that you're supposed to be having this, and this, if your life is in a particular situation, that may be exactly what you deserve for the way you carry yourself, the way you interact with people, your values, the way that you present and do and move and all that. You keep getting bad mates because that just might be what you deserve. I believe the universe will keep teaching you the same lesson until you learn it. They're not going to introduce you to the perfect mate for you because all you're going to do is screw it up. So you need to fix this, you know, whatever it is you keep getting put in front of you, there's something about this that you need to adjust and fix first. So whenever someone tells me about what's wrong with everybody else, we just go ahead and turn a chair. And we ain't going to worry about them people over there. So let's have a conversation between me and you and let's figure something out.
Wow. So Brother Daryl said, true. Hey, Brother Daryl. Hey, Brother Jamil. See y'all up on here. So let me ask you this. For mothers with sons, what advice would you give to mothers who are raising their sons?
To recognize the significance of man. And the reason why I say that is because what I get a lot is, we just did a 3rd annual Manhood Mentoring Conference this past weekend. And I asked all the young men in the room whose parents are still together. And only one hand went up.
Wow. And
he was the son of one of the speakers that day. So every kid who came in there was living in a single parent household, and they were all living with their mother. And a couple of things happened. So my parents split, and I was living with my mom and my brother. And I recognized the single mother struggle. And she was raising boys. Now, granted, my older brother was almost 18 at the time, but she had 2 boys in the house, and I get it. So let me preface that by saying this is not something I don't understand or something that I haven't seen. Never did she discredit my father. And though they couldn't work out as husband and wife, she did not make that in any way, shape, or form an indictment as him as a father. And she wouldn't even let me.
That's what my mother was.
Yeah, she was like, you know, one of the best things she used to say, the principle I carry with me, she said, don't hate people, just hate the things they do. And there's just some things that may not work out, but you can't just let that wipe this out, just whatever. But there's a lot of single mothers who do something that I won't personally say irks me, the whole I'm the mother and the father. Because there's a belief system that if you pay all the bills and that you're the one person that's in the house that's handling things, that you do both. There are a lot of nonverbal visual lessons that are taught by just the sheer presence of somebody. And when you tell a young man specifically, if you have a son, if you tell a young man, I'm both parents, I'm all you need, you don't need none of that. What you do, not in all cases, but a bad pattern that happened, and we're seeing a growing number of this, is that you find these young men who the blueprint of the woman they find is a woman who will take care of them and support them. So when they meet a woman, hey, my mama used to cook and clean and pay all the bills, why can't you? And number 2, you lower the value of fatherhood because you're saying that this is a position that can easily be filled, that I don't need him. We don't need him. We don't need that. And so you tell a young man that my value as a father is in some way, shape, or form less than hers as a mother. And that if me being there or not is inconsequential because she'll figure out a way to pay the bills and the kid will be all right. It's a damaging to the psyche of a young man when you take his purpose away. And that happens. And typically the hard part when it comes to dealing with children, 18 is not the benchmark if you were necessarily a successful parent. That will come out in the wash about 10 years down the road. And I think that we also have a society when it comes to what the barometer of good parenting is. Like when people tell me so-and-so's a good parent or a bad parent, I said, I can't gauge that until I see what the finished product turns into. Right. And so relationships where we get along cool and we tight and we good. Yeah, but if he's 30, still sleeping on your couch, can't sustain a relationship and can't support himself, you failed as a parent. Because the parent's job, whether of a human being, of a blue jay, of a German shepherd, is to raise a self-sufficient, independent offspring that can survive and thrive without you. If your child cannot survive without you, cannot take care of themselves, cannot sustain healthy relationships, cannot go out into this world and survive and thrive, it don't matter that you two can go to the club together. It doesn't matter that you two can still share all your secrets and be best friends. It doesn't matter, you know what I'm saying, like that, any more than so than saying that, oh, well, she go out all the time, or he wasn't this and that. What did the child turn out to? Responsible, great parent, amazing spouse. I can't call you a bad parent because the way that you raised your child, now granted, both cases has to do with who the child is, but I can't call you a bad parent because the way you did this turned out a phenomenal human being. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to mothers who are raising sons by themselves, be the most phenomenal mother you can possibly be. The most amazing human being on the planet, and a visual representation of a strong woman who's nurturing and loving and supporting to that young boy. The roles of a father, them conversations should not be intertwined. You know what I'm saying? Like what I do is an amazing mother. I will love you like no other mother has ever loved any other child. When it comes to the situation of your father, just as of right now, that's an N/A. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even addressing him. I'm just going to be the most great mother I can be. Because when I start picking apart at the father side of the column, you are inadvertently picking apart at what he's developing into. And we get so many of these young men who in their 20s will not have the conversation with their mother because it's their mother. But when conversation amongst other men realize that their mother's damaged them. You know what I mean? They'll talk about how I had to deprogram myself from what she was telling me. And I know she was doing it out of love.
I get you.
But I can't bring that to mama. I can't tell my mama who's paying all the bills by herself that I can't. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I get what you're saying.
So I would just say, if anything, just be the most amazing mom you can be.
So your quote was, recognize the what of man? Recognize. You said the greatness or the value.
Talk all the time. So you
just said it. I'm sorry. I wasn't sure if you said greatness or value of a man. And I said, what would you tell mothers who have sons? And you said for them to recognize that. I think in my mind I heard greatness, but I don't know if you meant value.
That's why I said take pen and paper.
I know. You got me. I was trying to like, because you was going in, but it sounds like what you're talking about is the value of being a man, of being a father. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean?
It diminishes the value.
Right. Okay. So okay. Because I could really see that, because I feel like we do that, and I also know when I meet or hear, so I've been in a lot of groups hearing young men talk about so bad about black girls, I'll be like, what is your mama like? You know what I mean? Because
but here's
and I say the same thing with women.
But the niche to that is that if you took the young boy's mom on paper, nothing. There's nothing wrong with her. But some of those little things, some of the positioning of where she holds men at, some of the things that maybe she has unresolved with his dad or some other man, some of the stuff, if you look at on paper, she did it by herself, she paid the bills, she kept him, kept food on him, clothes on his back, all that on paper statistically fine. But when you start saying, why do you have such a bitterness towards black women? Because if you had a mom that told you that the lineage that you come from ain't shit, I look just like my father, I'm my father's son, every negative thing you say about him, I'm looking at a picture of him when he was my age and we look like twins.
I get that.
You know what I'm saying? Or when you say that things like taking away the actual purpose and the value of what the man's position is. We don't need no man around here. I don't need no man for nothing. Or cross, another damaging thing is telling your 6-year-old he the king of the household.
Well, that's a whole nother thing. I'm right there with you.
You know?
I think I know you'll correct me, but I also think you're talking about when people internalize things and don't even know that they're doing it. It's like language. It's like when black people still walking around saying good hair. We act like, I don't mean nothing by that, but we know what you mean by that.
Yeah.
And when somebody here doesn't look like that, that means the hair is bad.
Yeah.
And we treat it as such. So I remember hearing a friend of mine who's a really good doctor. He was saying that Black women have to look at the way they interact with men in front of their sons, because that determines why sometimes they're not picking you. They will not say, I'm not picking my mom, but usually when they're doing that kind of like, oh, black girls is ghetto, blah, blah, they're really somehow referencing their mother's behavior with men, and that's why I don't want to pick you. I want to have peace, and I'm picking this person over here because it appears that they get along better with their mate.
Sometimes.
So that's all I'm saying. So I think if you're talking about things that are not seen.
Yeah, so there's not enough credit given to nonverbal visual lessons.
I agree.
And that's why that significance of a man is important, because as a young man, you see how this man interacts with other men. You see him how he interacts with other women. You see how he interacts when he leaves the house. You see how people speak to him, how he speaks to other people. Now, this whole conversation and stuff may go on, and nobody say 2 words to you.
Right.
But you see how all this is going, and it gives you points of reference on how to behave. If you're a woman, every man is trying to sleep with you. So the only dynamic that they're seeing of men is in predator mode. You know what I'm saying? Like the only interaction, like these dudes are all coming with an agenda. So it's like they're seeing that only kind of dynamic. And even if they have sisters, the only men who come around are trying to sleep with them. So it's a kind of it kind of thins out some of the nonverbal lessons that you learn for behavior.
I get that.
But and again, you always have to preface, because some people get on board, some but not all.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like there's some folks you say something like, no, you know. But that is the case for some. And dealing with a lot of these young men, that's a common thread, way more than most think, because when you switch genders, little girls don't typically have a problem telling their father everything they think of them when they grow up. Like when they get in their presence, all the things he didn't do, you weren't there for me. Like there's a time they can reach a point to it. But
some of them will hold, they would put their mama on the spot, because I work with girls. They would say, my mama didn't do this, and let their daddy off the hook. And I've seen so much. I'm like, well, dang, your mama's here.
Yeah, I've noticed. I will correct it, because I don't deal with little girls to that degree. I deal with grown women, but not little girls. But
yes, women, they
well, that's what I mean when they get older. So,
yeah,
so grown men now,
like,
men who are 30 years now, 30 years old now, and your mama's 60. Are you really going to come to her and say that the way that you was moving when I was 12 was why I had a bad blueprint for relationships in my 20s?
We'll talk.
Are you really going to have that conversation alone? No.
No, you're not. No. You're absolutely right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not. For what? There ain't no winning that. So it's like...
No, that's true.
All that conversation is going to hurt her feelings. Like, there's no win in that. So you would just internalize it. You take that L, and hopefully you have enough presence of mind that you work on yourself and get past it.
How do you think we begin to address, and I notice I didn't say heal, because I think healing is kind of like, it's something that happens over time. It's not like, oh, and then it's like it flies out your body or something. Yeah. But we have a hard time addressing behavior. Like I have a little nephew that's 2.5 years old, my great nephew. I adore this. Oh my God. He's just, but even he has a way of telling me like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I have to back up and be like, okay, like, it's like, well, no, even though he's 2.5 and he like, no, he'll be like, let me do, or he'll just be like, I'm not going to do it. And then when I back up, he do it himself. So for me, it's kind of, okay, Mom, you got to pay attention. He's basically doing independence. Like he's trying to do some stuff for himself. Yeah. Sometimes we don't always keep it real about our shortcomings, or as a parent, if you fail and you see your kid later, I find it very hard for people to apologize. Like, sorry I wasn't there for you. They'd be like, well, I had stuff. It's like you're a parent, like to talk about that with your mama, but for your child, why can't you take responsibility for the things you didn't do? And I'm talking about on both sides.
Yeah, but personal accountability is huge. For most people in my life, what I've come to find, to have a series of problems, we'll call them, have a poor ability to self-assess. So if you have a bunch of issues in your business, your paper ain't never straight, you always on relationship struggle, you can't keep a friend longer than 6 months. Most people is because they have an improper ability to self-assess. They can tell you what's wrong with everybody else, why the job don't pay them what they should, why she acted funny, why he was doing this. They can tell all that stuff out there. 20/20 vision. They got infrared, X-ray. They got all that when it comes to assessing other people. But when it comes to the ability to self-assess, then all of a sudden it's like the Riddler. It's just alphabet number question marks, and everybody just, it's one of them numbers. So So if you can't properly self-assess, that's why I say when people have relationship problems, that's why you start with you. Like, who are you? Like, do you even know who you are? And what I mean by that is where you come from. Start off with your parents. Do you know where they come from? Who your grandparents were? Do you know what your triggers are? Because I'm a firm believer is that you don't even know somebody unless you know their trauma. So if you get into a relationship with somebody, if you get married, interacted, if you don't know their trauma, you don't know them. Because if you don't know their trauma, you don't know their triggers. And if you don't know their trauma or their triggers, you don't know their history. So how much about them can you know without knowing any of those things? You can't figure out why they shut down. You can't figure out why they walk out or why they raise hell and break chairs. Like, you don't know those things. So when it comes to yourself, do you know those things? Do you know where your traumatic points are? Do you know what your triggers are? Do you know what it is that you're thirsty for? That you keep falling for the okie doke for? Because if you don't know where your thirst traps are internally, somebody else may just be hitting something inadvertently. Not because he knows you, not because you soulmates, not because you connected, just because it's his personality or her personality. She does something that hits that little thirst trap triggering you. So you all in with nothing stable around it. Like, you got to know who you are. Do you know your spending habits? Why there's always too much month at the end of your money? Like, do you know why, your math ain't ever adding up? I just this and that. Do you keep documentation? Like, how well do you know you? Before you start any finger point with anybody else in the world, you should be able to give the most accurate account of who you are better than anybody else on the planet with your true base root self-awareness. If you can't start there, I don't want to hear about what so-and-so did wrong, how the other person's out of pocket, why such and whatever. Start with you. And most of us don't want to look at ourselves because we have to come to grips with our own shortcomings, our own faults, our own mistakes. And then you have to start saying, where did this come from? You might have to start saying, mama effed up. As much as I love her,
that's real talk.
Mama dropped the ball. Daddy, as much as I love him, Daddy made some mistakes. My parents told me wrong. Like, my father used to always tell us, take care of that job will take care of you. My father's a retired garbage man. My grandfather's a retired garbage man. One worked for the county, one worked for the city. They start a job at 18, 19, work until you can't work no more, and retire with your benefits, your pension. That's not realistic for 2018. You tell a kid now that he's going to work a job for 30 years, that's crazy. You're lucky if the company even exists in 10. You know what I'm saying? There are some life lessons we were taught that were just incorrect for the life that we're living. And sometimes we have to say, my mama told me wrong. Now, I don't mean that she's a bad mama. My daddy told me wrong. Don't make him a bad daddy. They just gave me some information that I have to disregard, and I have to charge to the game that they're not 100% correct. And I got to make those adjustments for me and get myself in a better position. But you got to be willing to say, I'm messing up. They mess it up, and I need to start fixing some of these things rather than just keep trying to maneuver from a bad position.
How you suggest that we fix it, or how do we create new traditions and new rituals? I don't know. I mean, because what you're talking about, when you have a job and then you pass it on, people want stuff they can pass on they think is going to help the next generation, even though it may be outdated. Yeah.
So I guess we have to put that into. We're talking about like businesses?
It could be business. It could be stuff that
it's not the same. That's what I said.
Okay, I'm saying it could be business. You can say from the business or in personal. Like, I think that even with my mother gave me a lot of beautiful things that's helped me tremendously.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff don't help at all.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure, like, I love you, Mama, but I'm just not going to do it like that. But I thank you for giving me something to look at to know that I don't want to do.
Points of reference. There's value in points of reference.
Right.
There's value in seeing that. I think that where we're at now, so say if you want to do business-wise, if you want to try to raise your kids up for business, first off, do you understand it? If you're of a particular age, your whole base print for business and finance is probably, if you're of the labor generation, that's probably not what you should be double down on for your kids in a technological age. You know what I'm saying? Like, being knowledgeable of how stuff works. I think when you speak about us is, if we're going to start talking about business, looking at models of possibility, looking who's already done it, looking at where there's successful stuff, really understanding what needs are for where you are and all that. Like I said, I think more of a specific question I'm a little better at. But if
let's say relationships. Let's say you're trying to, when I always hear young girls say, well, I want to have a baby when I'm 25. I don't know what it is about the number 25. They don't necessarily talk about marriage. But then they talk about all the stuff their children are going to have. And I'm saying to myself, well, how are you going to get there? And you don't even know, like, maybe you should be married. So you would have some help. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to, like, give to that, not something judgmental, but it's like, if you really are trying to do something different than what your parents have done, or get a different outcome, you know what I mean? Where do you start?
Okay, well, there's a big fundamental thing we do in the community that's backwards, is that we go from where we are to where we want to be.
Okay.
When the better move is to go where you want to be and reverse engineer to where you are.
All right.
So if you're saying that at 30 years old, I want to own a house, I want to be married, I want to be this and that. Okay, so what do I need to get the house? I need to get my paper together. How much is the house that I want? Where is it that I want to live at? Where? Let's adjust for time. What's most likely going to cost? Okay, I need to start doing things to get me this house. I need to start doing things to be in that space. If I'm trying to say that I'm trying to be married in X amount of years, then that means I got to turn in my hoe card. That means I can't be letting everybody know what that mouth do and try to get myself in that lane and in that vein. So if you're not ready to do that, then you understand that, okay, well, then I'm probably not going to have this by this age. You know what I'm saying? I think that the better move that I've found to be successful is figure out where you want to be at. Figure out what age you want to buy. Figure out what you want your life to look like. And then just start backtracking. You know, I think where we are, we just run and think that, you know, and just kind of move as we go.
I think a lot of us do exactly what you said, but we do that when we're going to buy a purse or some shoes. We're like, I really want those shoes. You go see the shoes. You find out how much the shoes cost. We do it. And then it be on stuff that depreciate as soon as you walk out the store with them on your feet. So I'm just saying, a lot of kids do that. But what I find, brother, is that a lot of our young people, they don't know how to do that. If you sit and give, because I do this all the time, well, sis, what's going on with you? They can't even put the words in, like, to say, well, this is what's going on, or I want to do this. It's like you have to walk us through it. And I'm talking about young people. Older people, I think we got enough self-help gurus out there. Grab one of them, follow their blueprint. But with young people, I'm really concerned that I feel like they lost, some of them, not all, have lost their ability to even do just what you said, because our ancestors did it. We want to move to this neighborhood. I've grew up there my whole life. We living over in this neighborhood. How do I get us from here to over there? How much is this house? Like you just said. So I know we've been doing that, but it feels like for some generations that's kind of gone.
A big part of that, and so when we did the conference, the reason why it's structured a certain way is because we start off being transparent. There's too many adults, and it's not even necessarily parents, who want to present the image of being Teflon. That they've never had grown men who want to say they never had their heart broke. Do you know what I'm saying? That you have people who never want to say that losing that job really did mean something to me. Do you know what I'm saying? Like having to drop out of school to take care of family concerns really hurt me. Like when you don't show that emotional transparency to what's going on, there's nothing because kids don't have the life experience to connect, but they do the emotion. So when you come up like, hey, I was going through this and I felt alone. Kids know what feeling alone feels like. They may not know what it's like to lose a job.
Right.
But they know what it's like to feel defeated.
That's real talk.
So when you come home and you come before them and you actually present yourself as a human being, as opposed to a title, I'm mom, I'm dad, I'm uncle, I'm big so-and-so, I'm whatever, to where it's like, okay, so the kid can then start to see it makes it a little bit easier to tap in, and then you can actually connect, and then you can start talking and develop a dialogue, because they may not know, you know what I'm saying, they may not have the real world situation. They may have never been divorced.
But they understand emotions.
Yes. So
I get that.
So I think that how we present ourselves to children would help some of that, you know. And another thing along with that is not our identity is not based on our struggle. Because that's a disconnect between kids and older folks. And when I mean older, we just call 30 and up.
Right. Is that
there's a good poets, they put this piece out, they're talking about the rappers of today. They call it, little mumble rap generation, whatever. And adult, if you're over 30, we just roast them religiously. The Lil Yachty's, the Lil Uzis. But I'm saying,
I get you.
And the point that they made is that this is a generation who is not defined by struggle. As much as it exists, and as much as the problems, they don't spend their time talking about police brutality, diabetes, and healthcare, and high blood pressure. But I'm saying, but we're also talking about kids.
I get you.
So,
them too.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that when you're older, you recognize the grand scale of things. But to them, some of them are still in that place of They're talking about what makes them happy.
But I think that I'm not just,
you know what I'm saying?
I totally agree, but I also think that's something that we set up for them, because when I was their age, I was talking about stuff like that.
Yeah. I
came up in the 80s where we had the rap was more conscious. So I listened to Poor Righteous Teachers and Public Enemy and, you know, Eric B. and Rakim. And, you know, I grew up listening to rap that didn't just be conscious because it's telling me what's going on in the world. Yeah. It told me who I really was and where was I from and how I should be walking on the planet as a queen. And like I heard all of that. Yeah, we had 2 Live Crew, but that was like 1 2 Live Crew to 10 Public Enemies. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that wasn't all I was hearing. But I also know that we set this up for young people to be an excuse. Like, to not say an excuse, but more like, well, I don't have to be concerned about, but dude, where you going to eat at? Because some of us, when we were young your age, we was worried about where we was eating at. Yeah. Like, crack was running rampant. That's the era I come from. So you couldn't be a teenager like you were today. Yeah. Because you would crumble. Yeah. Basically. Okay. Because all the adults was like, not all of them, but a lot of them were cracked out. Oh, no, I get it. 2018 teens aren't built for the 90s. They don't. You know what I'm saying? Like I mean, just be 100. Like, they weren't built for that. But the difference is that they also don't live in that. So I think that sometimes when all they hear is struggle, and they're not. I don't know if they're hearing struggle. No. Remember perfectly what I'm saying, struggle. Okay. I don't mean the struggle. No, I mean struggle is paying rent and paying bills. I don't think they really. No, there's a lot of them who that's what they're told they're supposed to focus on. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, you told at 13, I need to get you ready for the real world. I need to tell you what it's like in these streets. I need to tell you about how to get a job, how to pay bills, how to do all. Like, that's what all these kids are told, you know, that the kid jump is from like 10, 11, 12 to, you need to be worried about being a man now. Okay, and then the 8th grade. Okay, let me. You know what I'm saying? Like, girls, they be on some. Yeah, I have black girls who are immigrants. Yeah. They're very different than African American girls. Yes. African Americans worry about when I'm getting my weave done at, or this person, I got this kind of shoe. They're worried about that. Yeah. But the immigrant black girls, like, I hope I don't get deported. You know, like, you know, my visa ran out, my period. Like, they're worried about real stuff. And so when I'm talking with them, I hear the immigrant girls like, you know, I really love the class. But sometimes I think they be talking about nonsense. Because to them, in their mind, that's nonsense. Well, yeah, but you also got to look at the benchmark of what you're accustomed to. Just to get here is so much to get through. So the idea that you finally got here, you need to maximize your experience here. I get that. When you're born into this just look at this way. But I agree with you with boys. Indoor plumbing is whatever. Drinkable water from your faucet is whatever. Air conditioning is whatever. That's true. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't even, you know, what do you mean? You got to get up and touch the TV? You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, we was the more control when I was growing up. You know what I'm saying? Like, so the benchmark when you compare to immigrants is like that. You know, we are so accustomed to stuff here that our poverty is still luxury in most of the world. You're right. Yes, you're correct. I know folks who are broke as I own 1 pair of Jordans in my closet, which was for a particular event. Like, it was for a specific thing. I know folks that had a job since Bush was in office. And they probably got gangs. Rows of them. Like, just, like, you know, so I get the benchmark when it comes to immigrants. There's a big difference. There's a big gap. And I made the point to say black immigrants because other people don't really know black people. But what I find is I'm surrounded by a lot of black immigrants. They'll come in and they just kind of slide in with us because they can't be anything else. They're not like Spanish-looking Latino or whatever. So they're black, and then they'll wait, or Jamaican or whatever, and then they'll wait till it's just us because I'm around a lot of people. They'll be like, I'm really struggling with so and so, but that's not an issue for me. Like, I'm really having to get my papers together, or I'm here and I have to have a sponsor. Like, they really have. That's something you shouldn't be thinking about when you're 14 years old and you're just gotten into high school, and you know what I mean. Yeah. How do we get our kids? Because I think there's nothing wrong with being young, whatever that means. Because I just think sometimes in America sometimes we put young could be 40. Yeah, but sometimes we put the stress of a failing marriage and mortgage payments on a 10-year-old. Yeah, that's not what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know parents who have heart to hearts with their 9-year-olds about why their relationship didn't work. Like, you know what I'm saying? Say something like eat your food because you know it was hard to do. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Not saying we're gonna be moving because we got evicted. Like, we never. My mother had like 3 jobs. There's too much of that friendship between kids and adults. You know what I mean? Like, there's too many. Me and Barry were talking about this the other day. That's so true. This is the first time in the last 5 years of recent history in this country where 2 generations were so close that 15-year-olds and 35-year-olds are virtually the same right now. That's real talk.
that a 15-year-old boy and a 35-year-old man are going to see the same movie, they're listening to the same music, they're waiting for the same video game to come out, they talk about the same issues, and in too many cases, they get their money out the same person. So when you start seeing a disconnect in the household, and that's something to what we spoke about previously, where you see some of the disdain and some of the issues that some young black men have with black women, is because if a young boy grows up in a household with his mom and a dude that's not his daddy, and even in some cases if it is, if he's going to get the same money out of her purse like he is, how much respect can he have for the man that's in that house? And then there's a question of respect that I have for you. This is who you got laid up in here. There are young men who will become very aware of that. You know what I'm saying? And once again, depending upon the relationship with mom, that may not be a conversation they can have with her. So if it's, I look at you sideways, because it is Negro who you got laid up in here with. I went to go get 20 out your purse. He said only take 10 because I need cigarettes.
Ooh.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's real talk.
And this is who you got up in here. And he ain't ish.
And it's still a role model.
And this is who you chose. So I got to look at you. You know, and there's some young men who have some issues about their mama. And we always like to say that if a black man doesn't have a black wife, it's because he hates his mom or he's got this and that.
I don't know about that.
Well, no, but I'm saying that narrative is said.
Yeah.
There are some black men who still only date black women who do have issues with their mom.
Oh.
That whole idea that if he got an issue with his mom is why he got a white girl. No, there are a lot of black men who have black women, and that's why they kind of have that little get a little.
Sound like an addiction a little bit.
Well, they may be attracted to them, but in the same boat, there's that they still got that unresolved issue that they didn't check. You know, they got that issue they didn't address with mom, and it still keeps carrying over into their adult life. That's why I say I don't see life as linear. I see it as you're 38, you're 45, you're 62, but you still got some 8-year-old in you. You still got some 12-year-old in you. You still got, you know what I mean?
And then don't forget, for some of us who were born, and I do believe in DNA. I do believe that you cannot discount the event of slavery in our thought process because things are passed down.
Yes.
So it's kind of like sometimes I'll see people, you know, growing up in the 80s, I've seen a lot of people have babies with the same man. One man, he has like 7 baby mamas. How do you even, I mean, I didn't grow up with that, but just seeing it, it's like, wow, like where did you get that thought process from? Why do you have 7 baby mamas? You know you can't afford to pay child support for all of them because you don't even have a job.
Well, because this is a system that allows you to walk away.
I don't disagree with that.
So the system, the way it's in place, that especially if you're economically struggling, I mean, your cable bill is higher than your child support payment. So this country has allowed you to walk away. And if depending upon what your life looks like, oh, you can't get a passport, you can't get a driver's license. Well, I ain't got a car anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like
that's real.
You know what I mean? Like you 10,000 in arrears. I could be $10 in arrears. I ain't got it on either account. Like, you know what I mean? So this is a system that allows you to walk away. And if you're somebody who's based in your feelings, like when we did the first Manhood Mentoring conference, the premise was living by principles, not just your feelings. Because your feelings will have you all over the place. Your feelings will have you. There's a quote I learned from a great dude, and he was like, at the end of your feelings, there may be nothing. But at the end of every principle is a promise. So your feelings will have you all over the place like a branch on a windy day. You be up under this girl because right now the conversation and the mood and the lighting and whatever you was sipping on got you feeling like you love her. That's your feelings. But you have no principles that allow you to own up to the responsibilities of what happens with it after you laid up with her.
Got that.
So if you're not a principled person, your feelings are going to have you all over the place doing whatever with whomever, whenever. So there's dudes who can have 7 baby mamas because they're not principled people. The idea of being responsible and taking care of the lives you bring into this world, standing by the woman that you committed to have a family with, doing all those things, those aren't principles you hold. Those aren't core values you possess. You all about your feelings. So your feelings got you following every skirt that looks good. Your feelings got you going everywhere that makes you smile. Your feelings got you going everywhere you feel good at. And that's how you can end up with 7 baby mamas at 32. Because your life is all about how you feel. And if you can find a woman that makes you feel good and you can make her feel good enough, she'll overlook some of your transgressions as long as too much of it don't hit your doorstep.
So give me the name and times of your show, because the sister only want to know what's the name of your show and times they can catch it and where they can catch it.
Okay, so The best place I tell people, so amomentwithmorris.com.
Okay.
So at amomentwithmorris.com, that's the site where the blog is at. That's the first page you'll see. On the little side column are links to the YouTube page, to the morning show, which is A Cold Cup of Coffee. That's Monday mornings, 9 a.m. You can go to hotmix106.com and you'll see it when it pops up there. And then the podcast I do with Barry Axis is the Say Something podcast with Jermaine Morris and Barry Axis. All those links are on amomentwithmorris.com.
Okay. Other question is, so you talked about men and emotions.
Yeah.
This may really help some sisters on the line.
Okay.
Okay. So how are men able to have feelings and still have the morals? Because you'll hear some women say, well, men don't show their feelings, or some men believe you're soft if you show your feelings. Well, so how do you...
Well, so I start with myself.
Okay.
So I am my greatest supporter. You may ask my mama, she may beg to differ. Okay. I love me through and through. You ever hear a report about Jermaine committed suicide? It was a setup. Okay, I love myself in my life. So I live my life a certain way. What you think of me is none of my business.
Oh, God, you grew up hearing it all the time.
You know what I'm saying?
I love that.
What you think of me is none of my business. So I'm going to live my life. Try to be as emotionally transparent with the person that I'm connected to for the life that I want to live and the love I want to share or how I want to experience life. If you think that's soft, more power to you. If you think that's whatever, go on, do your thing. If you don't like that about me, then we shouldn't be together or in the same room or converse. When you are so hung up on what somebody else might think of you, that you impede you from your own personal growth and development, you already lost. You're going to exist during the course of your lifetime living for somebody else who ultimately ain't thinking about you anyway. So that's not a space that I operate in. Like, I've got friends all the time, like, man, you different. Or I don't see stuff like that. Or you always see things differently than we'll be 50 of us in the room and 49 all on this. And I'll be like, well, wait a minute. Like, I have my own set of views, my own perspective, my own way that I deal with stuff. And I'll find the people who that clicks with. I would say I'm an acquired taste. I ain't for everybody. So if you're somebody who wants to take slight of me being that way, then you need to be over there. So if a woman's going to sit there and say, well, any man who's soft or eating emotions or he's this and that, or if a dude's like, oh, man, only men show this, that, whatever. First off, you can always get these hands if you want to test manhood. So I'm 6'2", 280. Like, you could get, like, I mean, if you want to start testing, like my masculinity is not to be debated or challenged or on trial.
So can men be emotional?
Everybody's emotional.
Okay.
The thing is,
hear some men say only if a man's being emotional, you being feminine. I'm like,
so it's a language issue.
Okay.
Because being angry is emotional. Being sad is emotional. Being happy is emotional. Ain't nobody gonna call out a man for laughing all the time. That's being emotional.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's a particular expression of emotions. Like the way that I don't believe there's such thing as a negative emotion. I believe that there can be a negative expression of or a negative manifestation of, but I think emotions are just emotions. What you do with them is what with it. I was angry all the time, but I channel anger into something positive. You know what I mean? You could be depressed and use your depression to inspire other people to help them from preventing the same struggles and problems you went through. It's the manifestation of it. Now, certain things make you feel better than others, and I know some people who on a physiological level will tell you that different emotions can do different things to your body. But just for the way that I operate, if a man tells me that he's upset all the time, are you okay with being upset? No. Well, then let's address that, and let's look at why you're upset, and let's get you into a state that you are okay with. I'm angry all the time. Are you okay with being angry? Yep. All right. Peace unto you, brother. And I'm going to keep it pushing. I'm not telling you wrong for how you want to feel.
Working.
Yeah, I know dudes who are really uncentered. And that uncentered uneasiness gave them a drive and an ambition to create and to build and to conquer. They were great in business and finance. They drove the cars they wanted to drive, lived they wanted to live, mess with who they wanted to mess with. They lived, and it was a life that was working for them. Who am I to tell you that your uncenteredness is wrong? So when we talk about emotions, I think what people are talking about is on that, can you woo, woo, woo? Like, all that sitting around with your head dropped down on that ER, this will never work. And always depressed and sad. Okay, that's another thing about me too. I speak all the time. Sound effects.
Go right ahead.
I think that's what people talk about men being emotional. But I would start off with if somebody's always got their head down, they always seem sad, they're always kind of whiny. Are you okay with how you are? Because if you tell me you're fine with who you are and how you live, the conversation, we're going to put a period on the end of the sentence. And anybody who's got a problem with who that is are just people that don't need to be around you.
That's real talk.
You know, that's how I feel about emotional and feelings and all that stuff.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So I'm a kind of zoom in on something. So let's say in the so-called conscious community.
I'm a preface before you start
your question. Okay.
Because I had this debate too. I don't even know what that means.
Okay, so the conscious community, I'm glad you asked that. I listen to a lot of different talks. So I'm listening. So conscious mean like Afrocentric, blacker than black. I'm just trying to, okay, go ahead.
I understand how it's used.
I know.
But why I say I don't know what it means,
is
because to me, conscious simply means to be awake, to be aware. So it's not so if you're aware of the detriment of certain behaviors that you have and ways that you move, so can you be conscious in selling drugs? Because you're aware. Well, but the behavior is detrimental to the folks.
And so in the 70s and 80s, we had a lot of conscious, woke knowledge of who people really were, but they also felt like they needed to sell a product where they could make some money because they claimed there was no other way for them to make money.
Okay. So just because the reason why it would always sit in my head is because to be conscious and aware is what's supposed to be conscious, but we always say the folks are asleep. who don't know these things.
Right. But
so if you know that it's going to be detrimental and bad, but you can find a way to justify and rationalize it.
I agree.
And that's supposed to be better than the dude who don't know.
Who's supposed to be sleeping.
And he's supposed, you sheep, you sleeping, you don't know what's going on. Like, I'm going to talk down on you because you don't know. Okay, but you do know when you still effing up. So that's why I say I don't even understand what conscious means.
Okay, I'm just trying to give you the definition.
I know dashikis and nexus
and Shea Butter Brothers,
all that stuff,
all that kind of stuff. But what I'm trying to say about, and I agree with you totally. Yeah. But I know now we have, and I'm saying conscious because that's the term that we kind of point some of us in that world. Because I listen to a lot of people. I listen to folks who are supposed to be like, we know about this, like it's great, but I ain't seen you build nothing yet, so I don't know how awake you are. You know, you make the Illuminati super real, but I mean, tell me what you've done. You can tell me what they've done, but you won't tell me what you've done. However, I'm just saying, I feel like there's other groups here. We can't be the only group talking about an unseen, they're not like us. If it's a secret, they tell everybody. It's just not the same thing.
Everything we know.
Right. So do you think, why does it appear to be such a shortage of black men for black women? And this so-called, we're African people, we're black people, we're for ourselves. Why does it seem, I'm just kind of, that there's such a shortage?
I guess maybe the confusion is where it seems. What do you mean?
Seeing so many black women who are conscious. They say 70% of black women are not married. Are not partnered. They didn't say we don't have children. They just say we're not partnered.
Okay, well.
And usually some of those stats are very much reflected in community. It's supposed to be like for each other. So I guess like 5 black men and 30 black women.
Okay, well, part of those statistics, when it pertains to the ratio and number of black women that get married, most get married later in life.
No, they don't.
No. Black women get married later in life.
No, they don't.
Well, what age are we starting at?
I'm talking about women who are at least over 35.
That's considered later.
I know a lot of, that's definitely much later. And I also know that these are women who did all the things like go to college, get their career started. And then by then, the minute they want to have, you talked about that railroad track.
Yeah.
I think there's nothing wrong with like wanting to date somebody who at least have a job. And they can't be like, he has potential. Because when you get to 40, you can't be looking at potential. Honestly, at this late date. And you know what I mean? So I'm just saying, and you can say, hey, I don't know much about that. But what I do know, because of the work, that's a large number. And I'm not talking about the ones who become lesbian or
no. I'm
talking about the ones who are straight.
I think maybe just to clarify.
Okay.
So a percentage of black men that aren't for black women is different than a percentage of black women who aren't married. That's what I was trying to clarify.
Okay, say that again.
So if you're talking about black men who are not for black women,
right.
I
don't mean that. I mean black women who are just not married. And so 2 groups tend not to date as much out their race.
Yeah.
Asian men and black women.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a loyalty there.
Yeah, well, that's why I was trying to figure out, because that's why I said I didn't understand the scenes, like, because most black men who are married to black women.
I know that to be true.
Yeah, so that's why I said I wasn't sure. That's why I wasn't sure. That's separate than why are black women not married. Yeah, so
loyalty waiting for black men.
Well, and I don't have an end all be all magic wand answer.
I just want to throw that out.
But I think that there are a lot of factors.
Okay.
So we are the only group of people that raise up our daughters to be mothers, not wives.
I don't disagree with that.
So, and that's not to say that other cultures got it right.
I get that.
You know what I'm saying? Because the fact is that we're not marrying at those large numbers. That 60% divorce rate isn't us.
Okay, yeah, because much of us get married.
You know what I'm saying? So it's not like their system is You know what I'm saying? It's not like they figured out, because that's one thing that gets thrown around too. We compare to other cultures.
You can't compare us to no other group, to be honest with you.
But we do in conversation, and some way sometimes we give the slant that they're doing it better than us. No. But I'm just saying that high divorce rate is them.
Right. I agree with that.
So as opposed to us. But for a lot of factors, so if you take a woman who's over 35, who goes out of high school, goes to college, because she's been raised up to believe that I don't need no man, or don't have to rely on a man. So your whole thought process coming up is, I need to be able to do for myself, have my own, take care of myself. And in the event that I do have a child with a Negro who ain't ish, I can still handle my business and take care of my babies. That is not a mentality that is taught through other cultures. But it is for us, and black women are pretty much phenomenal in everything y'all set your mind to. So that being the thought process, a lot of this led to the result. So you have a lot of black women. So after you finish school, after you get established in your career, after you buy your home, now you're 36, 37, 38, whatever, if you did or didn't have children. Now you say, I want to be married to a man that's quote unquote equally yoked. Statistically, black people are the only group in America where the woman makes more than the man. There's no other. There's no other group that the woman makes more money than the man. Asian women don't make more than Asian men. White women don't make more than white men. Latino women don't make more. Before you
compare us, because now you're doing the comparison game. Well, no, I'm going to help you out, because I like the way you do. Like, let's look at this so we can look at this. Okay. So the other part is, the other groups did not come here as enslaved people.
Oh no.
The other groups did not have to survive, and also black women are the group, because other women don't have to protect their man, even before themselves. So even though you have a woman who says, and I think that's out of survival, take care of yourself, girl. I think that's out of survival, even though we keep having sons. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, well, we was really about that life. People like, we don't want to have no more male children because we can't get it right with them. You see what I'm saying? Which we don't do that. We love our sons and we raise our daughters.
Yes.
That's a whole nother, I grew up hearing that all the time. And I've seen that a lot.
That's very true.
Yeah, and so I feel like, I'm saying that you're right in terms of black women learning how to do for self and take care of themselves, whatever. No other group is unprotected like we are.
Oh yeah, I wasn't saying, so why I prefaced it with that is that, so if you have a group of women who make more than the man, and the reason why I referenced the other groups is why it's going to be an isolated column.
Gotcha.
If you're trying to find a man that's equally yoked in a lane where you are statistically going to be more successful than him, you're going to have to concede on some level of either, I gotta be okay with the man that makes less than me, because statistically he will, or I gotta wait it out, because you're in a race that statistically you're going to win. And you're saying, I only want to sit with the person who can either tie or beat me.
Gotcha.
Well, statistically, you're going to beat the big bulk of the people you run in the race with. So, you know what I mean? So there are women who reach a point of being extremely successful. Like, how come I can't find my male counterpart? Well, statistically, you are supposed to be him. Like you.
I agree, but I don't think she really understands that.
But that's what I'm saying. So when you say how come, that's where you reach it. The woman who's like, I'm a homeowner, I'm a business owner, I got this and that. I don't want this Negro who's on the come up.
The other factor that I think we left out of this, and usually when we have these conversations as community, could you reach back open that door?
Yes.
Whoever that is. I'm sorry, I do that on there. Is that somebody from here? Hello?
It's Sister Dana.
Yeah, okay, come on in, Sister Dana. So sit on down. So what I was going to say to you was, we still going. Oh. Dana, she know this is our house. So, so what I was going to say to you, the other part that we leave out of this conversation there are a lot of successful black men. They just not married. It look like this is later.
Okay.
it looked like they don't marry black women.
Well, that's a factor too.
That's the other slice of the pie.
Well, that's why I picked the first one.
Okay.
So if you take all the successful women over a certain tax bracket,
I get that,
and all the successful men over a certain tax bracket, there's going to be more women than men.
Okay.
So if you figure it all out and do all that stuff, there's still going to be an off number.
Okay.
So that was just the first part to that.
I'll take it.
So then you start factoring in, you have to incorporate our homosexual population.
Yeah, so true. Okay.
You have to incorporate our undesirables.
Improve population.
Well, we're going to get there too.
Okay, I'm sorry.
There's some undesirables that the relationship credit score. All them,
I love that relationship credit score.
510s, the 566s,
real talk,
the 592s. That you just
that's real talk. I love it, but it's real.
The relationship credit score, they just ain't even, they get back, but they're in the pile. That's so you move them, then you incorporate the prison population.
Right.
That just really
dwindles,
starts to lower that number.
I agree.
So then you take the number of men who then date who then get themselves a non-black woman, which is still, and I always like to preface it, which is still drastically small compared to how many black men marry black women. I think that's a false narrative that gets put out there too much. That they keep saying all the brothers who were successful got non-black women. No, most of them have black wives. Just the ones you see on TV. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe you want to go by profession.
Hold on, while you're in that zone. Okay. So here's this thing about black. Because we know that there's a difference between being physically black and mixed black.
Okay.
And so I do see a lot of mixed black women with black men, but I don't see a lot of black, dark-skinned black women with black men.
Well, I'm going to say I don't know what the statistical breakdown is.
Either.
Well, no, between what's black or mixed black. I don't know what that ratio is. So
you know a real Fendi bag from a fake Gucci bag, don't you?
Yeah, but I'm saying I don't know. I don't know numbers. Like if you put it in front of me, I could say yeah.
I don't know the numbers either.
I don't know.
I'm agreeing with you. I'm just saying sometimes I wish black was so simple. Like white has a distinction, and we know when people are white and when they're not white. Even though I think some people who are extremely mixed could look closer to being white than black, but they get the black label.
Extremely fair skinned. But I mean, unless he told you or you knew him personally,
you would think he was. Yeah. And so what I'm saying is, I feel like that's one of those underlying issues that as a people we don't talk about. It don't make the person less black, but to that dark-skinned black girl that you're saying, oh, she's your representative. It's like there's no way in hell you could be my representative because my reality is very different than yours.
Yeah.
I cannot walk through the door and I'd be fair-skinned. Which that terminology is a slave terminology that means that you're closer to white people, so you have a fairer shot.
Yeah. Oh, they're the brown bag.
That's how I learned. I'm not saying that's how I.
Oh no.
Words. My God.
And language matters. I'm a firm believer in words matter. And
but I'm agreeing with you. I'm just saying, even with that in itself, that's a whole nother room inside of a room.
Yeah, there's colorism. For real.
No, black folks aren't. We don't do that. I'm being sarcastic.
No, I mean, but I think part of that is regional, and I think a big issue is
regional for where?
There are certain sects of the United States. There aren't a lot of mixed.
All over the United States.
No. But I'm saying, so when you go pockets, there are some where it's just dark skinned black.
Give me these places.
Okay, well, my family's from Eufaula, Alabama, and so so there are mixed. Geographically, everywhere.
That's where they came from. Was the South.
But you find just how.
If you're gonna say South Carolina, I was gonna agree with you.
No, but how you say Sacramento is a city, but there's pockets within it. There are some pockets where there's just segregation is still real. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So there's parts where there's not. There's just pockets where there's still white people on this side of town. You may work over there, but 6 p.m. be on the other side of the bridge.
That's true. But when you look at every black leader we have, they're light skinned. They tend to have more of a shot. That's why Rachel Maddow or whatever thought she could just be like a black girl because we don't question that, but we think somehow they look better in leadership because white people would be comfortable with them, and our slave mentality we would be. But
that's my point. It's not that these people were.
And there's also a term called buffer race. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Go ahead.
We ushered these people up to be leaders.
But that's based upon our experience through slavery, which we're still rolling through. So when we look at when I work with my young girls and they're telling me about girls who they think are beautiful, they're not talking about Lupita. Yeah. They're talking about Beyonce. They're talking about Cardi B, who's black sometimes and black not.
She's like Puerto Rican.
No, she's Dominican, which is a whole other, because Dominicans don't like Haitians. They share island, and that's probably their relatives. So all I'm saying, because Haitians we know are black. So I'm just saying, and I'm not trying to get from this. It's hard sometimes to have this conversation because these are the other little things that black folks don't talk about. Because some of us are very guilty in keeping that going. Yeah, we're very guilty of that.
Okay, so for me, and why I say so, my family's from Eufaula. So I'm about the same complexion as my father, who is lighter than both of my grandparents were. Like the way our family, you know what I'm saying? Like if you look at my aunts, like it was, between all the kids, there was a lot of, and they're just all along the color line. So my entire existence growing up, black was black in a bunch of different shades, and it didn't require mixing. It's just because I would go look at my cousins, look at my uncles, look at my my family was a wide spectrum of color. Even amongst my siblings, like we're all different complexions. And so in my life, I never looked at this is more or less black. Do you know what I mean? Like, or better or worse, because this aunt is darker complected, this aunt is light. I don't love her just like one any more, any less. So, I mean, that's my experience.
That's a beautiful experience to have. I mean, I have that in my family, but because I'm honestly, I think it's because I had deaf grandparents and my mother was very keen on language. I have a different lens that most people don't have. And what I mean by that is I look to see who the leaders are. And then I look at the darkest person in the room and I'm watching them respond. Then I watch how dark people respond to other dark people. Like, why do we tear them down, but we don't tear them down? Yeah. Why do we do this thing with hair? Why now the big thing is curly, crinky, mixed hair? And watching, so the other day in my class, we did this thing around what ethnic group were you in? And I let religion be an ethnic group. So we had Latinos, we had Asians, we had religious people, and we had black people. So we had 2 black girls in the religious category, and everybody else was in the prospective categories. So when I said, when I put this word out there, give me your one word. So it's like Latinos, and everybody did a good job. We got to the black girls, and the words were ratchet, loud, ghetto, and I'm like, damn, these are from the black girls, not from the other groups. Even the 2 black girls who was in the religious category, they said smart, resilient, whatever. So I said, we had to get rid of one group to make all of us better based upon what you shared. Who would that group be? And then everybody was kind of scared because they looked at the black group. They didn't point. And then the black group was like pointing at everybody else. I said, y'all, based upon the words you shared. This is what I mean about that unspoken. So I said, y'all, and then it's like, well, the black group. And then I asked them, I said, because they had to say it. And I said, where did you get those concepts from? Yeah. Because everybody's like, black people are cool. They gave us schools. Yeah. I let all the other groups threw them out first before getting to the black group. I'm like, if I do this before them, then maybe we get to them. Yeah. But they was keeping it solid. That's how they felt. And what I heard the girl say was like, because that's how people see us. And that's how I show up sometimes. And I was like, this is deep. So even though you look around, we think black is black. Black really ain't black.
Oh no, I understand.
But even that's how I go. If you have a drop of black butter, you black. That's how we roll. But I also watch people pull that out. Well, I'm mixed with this. I'm mixed with that. Like if I cut you open, 20 people gonna jump out. No, you're just gonna bleed if I cut you.
Yeah. When people tell me that, I just look at them. Okay, that makes because to me that makes you feel better.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? Like to tell me that you won 64, something, whatever.
I get you.
That's solely for the purpose of making you feel better. Why am I trying to take that from you?
Right, like
you got something to help you sleep at night.
I agree. I just feel like that's and then I don't know if you noticed you work a lot. You talk about lots of with males, but I know with black women that's a part of the competition. Yeah, that's a part of the competitiveness. If I ask a girl right now, when you talking to a dude on the phone, what's the first? He said, "What you look like?" What's the first thing you think she said?
Right.
Her complexion. So I'm like, you can say it don't matter. But you ain't going to go out of here without your hair done, or you're going to make sure, I heard girls say, only thing she had on me is that she was light-skinned. And I was like, what? Like, I was always like shocked, like, I thought that was 1932.
No, because
it's 2018.
It's not because the projection of the standard of beauty, and though for years it's always been European features, there has been a shift.
Oh, definitely.
And the shift it is brown.
And for white people, it's black.
It's brown. It's shifting to, they want beige. Because they realize that the appreciation of real color, they want beige now. But so I worked for years. That my company originally was an artist management marketing company.
Okay.
And so I used to work with recording artists and stand-up comedians. So I used to take trips to LA, do all these New York stuff, all these entertainment-based stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always a campaign for what they wanted to put out. Like you start hearing some of these meetings and you start marketing for advertising for products and stuff and the look and what the face of something is. There is a narrative to move to brown. Not black, you know, but beige. Like to
I think it's always been beige.
You know what I mean? But it's
black people on TV always been beige.
Yeah, but I mean, well now instead of beige for black, you can get beige for white. You can get beige for, you know what I mean? Like you can get it as an acceptable, you know, piece to put in front. And these young kids, they get hit all the time. You know, I think when we were younger, you know, we were talking like, I remember when it was 3 stations on TV. I remember it was a big deal. I don't know what the numbers are wherever you was from, but here it was like 58, 40, and 31. That. Like when those other stations started adding, like that was a big deal.
When Fox came.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That Fox is 40 here. Yeah, like that was when
UPN network. Nothing but Negroes. Go ahead.
so that was a huge deal, and basically you only got. I mean, we were older before we got. I mean, it was a big deal. We got a little 13-inch black and white TV in our room that our grandparents were like throwing away or something. Right. Like, so the access of what we had from external media influences was minor. There was one TV in the living room.
Just real talk.
You know what I'm saying? So you got where you were. So everybody in my house was black. Everybody on my street was black. Everybody in my school was black. Like that was my world and my existence. These kids now have the world in their hand. They're getting hit with all these the sites, the IGs and snaps and all the different social media stuff where they're seeing all these different images, critiquing, telling them this is what the standard is and how far are you off from it. So they're not growing up in a basis where they actually establish who they are with roots and come up. Like I said, with my family, I had roots of black comes in different shades. This is not better because it's this. You know, one of my aunts recently passed away, one of my favorite aunts. You know, she was darker, darker. But there's not a colorism thing because that was where my basis was. My mama is darker, her mama's darker. Like it's just, you know, so that's where my root was. I didn't start getting all those external influences until I was grown. Okay. So I had already had my foundation. These kids are getting bombarded. We get cell phones to 2-year-olds. You know, the old days of put them in front of the TV, now it's put them in front of the cell phone. They're 3 flipping through YouTube, seeing these images, getting that starting to shape their foundation. So if they don't have that root, that base at home, their base is being formed by media, a bunch of people who don't look like nobody in this room, who are sitting around a table making decisions about what we want to start putting out and what we want the product, you know, face to be and that sort of stuff. So I think that it's important that we actually, some of the things that I've seen, you know, and the different groups that really, really try to work on the foundation of these young, not even just girls, but young boys. Because young boys got to realize that the stuff they're seeing on screen is BS too. You know what I mean? They're seeing these girls, oh yeah, man, that's a queen. No, that's a white girl with a spray tan. Like, and I'm not even knocking them for doing it because you do them for what it means to make you look good, for you to be you. But you need to have some real world basis for what it is. You need to understand what reality is. Like you are so caught up on the Hollywood channel that they keep showing you sci-fi stuff all day.
Channel 0.
If they started showing green people, it wouldn't take but a 2-year cycle before people really start thinking there's some green people walking around America.
Take them when they first see them.
Yeah, if you started showing every now and then there's some girls on the beach with the one green friend, and then you start showing IG pictures of the one green person at the Drake concert.
Right.
There's the one, like, all of a sudden, there's some green people out here. There's some teenagers, like, there's some green people. I saw the Lucky Charms box. I've seen, you know, X-Files. I know that there's some green folks out there. You could curb their thought process and believe that there's a green individual walking around. So I think that we have to stress the importance of actually giving a foundation to these people and not getting them so hung up on all this external. The media is a business. Entertainment's a business. And you're trying to shape a certain narrative for a business, and that can't be your reality for how you exist in life.
I think in my teenage years, one of the experience I had that really kind of turned me off from hip hop was hearing all of the slogans towards light-skinned women. Redbone, Big Daddy Kane. I was a fan of his, so he way one song, it was like Redbone this. I was like, oh, this nigga black as he is. Excuse me. I just had to I was done.
Yeah.
So I would start seeing that with all the NWA, and I heard even when they did the casting, they wanted mixed and light girls.
Yeah.
So I knew I wasn't off from it. I lived the era. So for me, it was like, yeah, I can't even. I think I just started tuning out after the conscious rap era or hip or whatever. I couldn't do the gangster. I just could. I wasn't built for that. I just wasn't. It was like I don't really come from that. I understand who my enemy is, and I'm not trying to make up a new one. Okay. I'm just not going to do it. I'm built to be a warrior. That's just what I know. I mean, it's different between being a soldier, and it's different than being a warrior. Warriors have to think as they fight. Soldiers just do what they're told.
So, yeah.
So I'm right there with you. So as a brother, do you ever have, and I'm going to tell you this, I've also had conversations with black people where I corrected their language in front of me.
Okay.
When somebody says the person was fair skinned, I go, what color is that? Like because I want them to understand I don't talk like that.
Yeah.
And I think in order for us, our war with each other is this language, so we can stop alienating each other. Yeah. I was growing up and somebody said I had good hair and my sister didn't. I would not be playing with you tomorrow. It's that simple.
That's the thing. Maybe where I was at.
I was in South Sacramento. I was right here.
That was an adult conversation.
Yeah. Oh, kids talk like that.
Well, no, but I'm saying
because they hear kids talk like that right now, and I know they heard that.
No, I'm saying where I live, maybe it was just because everybody looked the same.
Okay, I get you.
You know what I'm saying? So there was no on my block. There was one mixed girl, like that. I remember she had a little crush on my brother. Like there was one mixed girl that lived on our block. That was it. That was in our age bracket. You know, that was it. So in no disrespect, but she wasn't special for it. She was just a girl lived down the street. Like. They didn't have all that. Like I said, everybody looked the same where we were at. So, like I said, my blueprint for coming up.
Sorry, a comment. So, Sister Harris said that's because beige can be anything racially ambiguous.
That's the point.
That's so true. That's just what you said. But then she also said, "Do you think California is in the sunken place?"
No, because I think
I don't know about that. Depending on where you are. He's saying no. I'm saying I'm from the East Side.
California is what it is. So you have to understand that. So what a lot of people think that first off, that's not called. Let's clarify. Let's not talk California because we're only.
That's a question.
No. But I'm saying to clarify. So because when people think California, most people aren't thinking Crescent City. When people think California, they're not thinking truck.
They're thinking
LA.
That's
what I'm saying. So we're not talking about California. We're talking about 5 cities.
Is different from the Bay and
maybe
from LA.
We're talking about 5, 6 cities. Really.
That's a good question. Though.
So yeah. So the state, no. You know, and most people don't even think that most of California is agriculture.
That's true.
You go back east, everybody thinks everybody lives by the beach and there's celebrities at every gas station. Yeah. But the bulk of the state is agriculture.
That's true.
So the state of California, no. I think for the cities that most people are talking about, Los Angeles and the surrounding little areas, I'm not differentiating Pasadena and so the LA area, San Diego area, you know, you come up here around Sacramento, around San Francisco, is that a sunken place? No, I think it is what it is. I think that Sacramento, this Northern California area is starting to adapt Southern California ways, but that whole LA region is based off of plastic. It's based off of a
plastic place.
It's based off of a fake representation.
Right.
That's where you go. That's the fake factory is Los Angeles. So to me, but if you don't put it in its proper place, if you try to say that LA is real, like that Hollywood is reality,
you ain't been here.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you can't sit there and say that I'm trying to make Los Angeles the same as Brooklyn, as the same as Birmingham, as the same as Seattle. Like I'm saying, so I wouldn't say this. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to put it where it is. This is the fake factory. And so now, because the prices are high, we have people from the fake factory who moved out.
And they're up here.
Because they no longer in the game, or they couldn't afford the rent. So they've now started to spread out in these other little areas, but they're from the fake factory.
Right.
So the state's not a sunken place. It just is what it is.
I agree.
And too many people can't differentiate the difference.
I agree.
And you know what I mean? Like you don't realize that she 30% plastic.
No, I
you know what I'm saying? Like and trying to say that how come you don't look like her? Well, when you give me some money, I will. You know what I'm saying? Like you know what I'm saying? Like how come you don't like? California is the base point for media for TV. So that's why everybody on TV sounds like they're from California.
That's true.
So if you go in any movies, TV shows, unless it's supposed to be a specific regional thing, like it's supposed to be filmed in Boston or supposed to be filmed in Jersey, everybody on TV sounds like they're from California.
That's true.
Like it's all part of just the machine.
Right.
So everybody don't sound like us. You go down south, go back east, up north, hell, all throughout California, we don't sound the same.
That's true.
You know what I mean? So it's just putting it in this proper place and understand what it is and telling folks that's not real. Like
do you think the term of color is appropriate for Black people?
What do you mean?
Because sometimes I hear people use it interchangeably. That they'll say the person is Black and that's because we're of color. Like, do you think that Black people are of color, or do you think that we're just Black? Or what
okay, so I use the word Black in the context of this for the sake of conversation.
Okay.
But I don't think we're a crayon color.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? But I understand that if I'm trying to have a broad discussion, that Black is a universally accepted term, so everybody can understand what I'm talking about. But if you're of African descent, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't, I guess the way my brain is, I don't think Black. I just understand that the person I'm talking to probably does. So it's like, I'll usually do quotations, so-called Black person. Like, right. So is the question, should people of color be considered the same as Black?
Nope. I'm saying you can answer like that too. But I'm saying, like you just clarified, you said you don't really believe in Black. You're using it for the sake of conversation, which I totally get that. But you're more into the term African American. And I can get that. Or you say African descent. Of African descent, I'm sorry. Of African descent. So, because I hear a lot of people interchangeably using of color and Black in the same breath, when I know that the other people who are of color don't do that and put us in that category. Mm. So when Latinos are fighting for rights for themselves, I'm pretty sure they're not thinking about Black people.
No.
Because they're speaking in Spanish, which they know most of us do not speak Spanish. And so if you're including me, you want to make sure, because I would bring a translator in for you.
Yeah.
Because Black people will do that.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, so that's when I asked about that interchangeable kind of thing with that particular term.
When people say people of color, usually in my thought process, I assume you mean Latinas, Indian, Middle Eastern, something along that lines if you're referring to people of color. Because if you wanted to say color and you're referring to us, you just say Black.
Bam. Okay.
So when someone starts talking about, people of color, I'm saying, okay, you're talking about Mexicans. Or right. You're talking about, Indians. You're talking about, something along that line is what I'm assuming first. Because people don't have a problem with saying Black.
Okay, well, I'm going to say for the people of African descent, for you right now, do you think we have Black, do you think we have African American?
Just tell me, because I can say for the sake of discussion. Okay, that's why I would say. That's why I would say for the sake of discussion.
So do you think Black people in America, do you think we have leaders that reflect who we are?
Yes.
Okay, who are they? So I can put them in.
You mean as in a national leader?
No, just leaders, period. They don't have to be national.
So that's what I was saying. I think wherever you are, there's leaders. Now, do you think leaders...
Sacramento leaders? We in Sack of Tomatoes. I'm going to pick down. So people want to know who these leaders are, Black
people. If you look at the people who influence people...
But I got to be clear on what a leader means.
Because...
Would you like me to be clear on what a leader means?
Well, no, I know what leader means, but I'm not sure how you
So
mean
for me, when I think of a leader, and I come from like the tradition of studying with people like Fidel Castro and people who actually are boots on the ground. They're not telling you what to do. They're out there. They're advising you on where to go because they're next to you working on where to go. So even though when Presidente Fidel died, he was still a part of the game, even though he was sick. Yeah. He never just, in Cuba, the revolutionaries from that period, they don't believe in retirement. Yeah. They retire when you die. Yeah. So it's like they don't do retirement, which is why a lot of them, their life expectancy is very high in Cuba because, they take care of their elders because their elders are not just going to sleep. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's what I mean when I say leaders. I'm not interested in people who I have 50 degrees, so I'm going to tell the rest of you Negroes what to do. That's not what I'm talking about.
Oh, no. Well, I'm a firm believer in anywhere you go, there are people who have influence. Now, is that in necessarily the most positive direction? Not always. So that's why I say when you talk about leaders.
For mobility for us to take care of ourselves more. Not necessarily trying to be like other people, but like building hospitals and schools and clinics and, supermarkets and farmland. And that's, leaders should be able to say, this is how we're going to eat. You get sick, we're going to take care of you. That's what I think leaders are supposed to be cultivating and helping us to.
We have, so if we
sorry.
No. So let's just say if for all intents and purposes, we're going to call Martin, Malcolm, Marcus, not using their last name, but just for clarification, we're going to call them president. Like if we're going to say that was on a hierarchy level, that's president.
Okay.
So then you drop down and you've got Al, Jesse, governors. Do you know what I'm saying? Like on a leadership level. Then you drop down and you've got, on this day and age, your Umars, your Dr. Boyce Watkins, those are mayors.
Okay.
So then when you drop down another to your town leaders, I think every region has town leaders. But to mobilize on those other tiers up, there's only a couple of guys I would say that I would trust.
Who are these? You said the top one was the president, right?
Well, if we're gonna say like leadership wise,
let's do this.
For today's era,
for me personally, for black people,
Farrakhan.
Okay.
Probably the most galvanizing, let's do something on this day and folks will show up. Here's the plan. Get people to actually take some course of action. So
to give him some more validations, because you all said Farrakhan. So and I'm gonna use Farrakhan on this example because you gave me him, but I'm also gonna compare him to Fidel Castro.
Okay.
So when I look at Fidel just don't give a good speech. Fidel overthrew a major oppressor with force and might.
Yes.
Weaponry.
Yeah.
He also didn't go meet with people. He actually got help from the Russians to sustain his revolution.
Yes.
So to me, is that the same thing as?
No, but I'm working within the confines of what we have here.
Okay.
So I'm saying like.
Do you think we missed our
scale?
Do we think we missed our window? Because I'm saying that you're right. Fidel is like, I mean, Farrakhan is like right now, but Fidel would have been like equal to Malcolm X in terms of if we did a revolution like they did in Cuba. It would have had to been in like 1950.
But 60s, where we are now,
1960s.
If we're going to say that if there's any black man or woman that can say on this day, we're going to move and we're going to start doing this, I think he could gather more folks together and actually something happen than any of the other people who are speaking on stuff for issues in this country. Okay. So I would say if we're going to.
So Fidel is, Farrakhan is one.
Yeah.
Is it any more? Because everybody not gonna follow Farrakhan. So we got 2 million black men here to his march. I say let's give him 2 million for your march because that was a great march.
Yeah.
But how many black men are there in the United States? Roughly
20.
Okay, so for the other 18 million black men, who else would they be following?
Secretly, Farrakhan.
Some of them.
No, I mean, I get it. But some of them are, no. We're in conversation. You should be on the camera.
Obama?
No, you know what? Obama. There's some Negroes.
There's
I get that.
I think
Obama.
I think Farrakhan could galvanize more black men.
Okay.
Obama could probably move more people.
Okay.
So, but they wouldn't all be black men. They would be a combination of. But if you're talking about mobilizing black men to move something, Farrakhan would be the most. And you can maybe go Obama, but I think it's a far jump before you get to the government level, to the governor level.
Okay, hold on. So it's the president.
Yeah.
So it's Farrakhan and Obama.
Maybe Obama's like a distant second. It's not close. But if you're gonna say who's close, I would, in my opinion.
Okay. So if we included all the people, not just black people, Obama will probably surpass Mr. Farrakhan.
Yes.
Got you. Okay, so now who's under the president?
That's why I say go to governor.
Governor. We don't have no governors.
No, I'm saying that next tier down of influence,
right? Who
can do stuff. I mean, the respect level isn't there, but the cachet is Dr. Claude Anderson. For what his economic plan for the betterment of black people in America is if it can be, of course, it's got to be tweaked a little bit than his original plan. But for some real change and some real systemic shifts, I would put him as he's better than a mayor. Like he would be a governor.
Governor. Who else would be governor? This is really good. It's something to think about. I never even thought about it like that.
Yeah.
So put it to that. Any other governors?
For the fact of the they still have a following. So personally have issues, but Jesse. Jesse.
Oh Lord, we in trouble.
Jesse still got influence. Jesse still got influence.
Wait a minute, which one's the son or the papa?
Papa.
Jesse. Okay.
Jesse still got influence.
Junior? Is he a junior?
You know, Jesse still got influence.
The third. What is his son? I want to say Jesse. Y'all correct me because I don't really know, but I'm saying okay. So you're saying he's more like the governor. So will he really move black men or will he move elder black men?
Well, that's what I'm saying. But the numbers.
Okay.
The total numbers.
Jesse.
I don't know
I'm understanding why some of this.
And we're speaking about like for the movement of stuff, no, just to clarify, just not just for who can, who can get.
Somebody
who can
said, "This is Harrison. Isn't he in jail?" That's why I was asked. He's out now because he's crazy. So now he's halfway out. But I think he talking about the dad, Jesse Jackson.
Yeah, old school Jesse. Rainbow Coalition Jesse. African American Jesse. Okay.
We don't know what he really do, Jesse.
Yeah, exactly. So like Tommy. Like Tommy from Martin. Yeah.
And we love it because he's our elder. But let's keep it solid, y'all. These are real concepts. We laugh about them, but we know that's true. Okay, so what about so that's you would say Jesse and Claude Anderson as governors?
I would put on who can move people and actually put something into place. And I'm iffy on Jesse, but I have so much respect for Dr. Claude Anderson and his plan. He wrote the original affirmative action bill, which was supposed to be specifically designed for Black people. It wasn't the way that it was put into play and how it was used systemically when it came to employment and how it's actually been practiced. The original affirmative action bill was written by him, and it was specifically for Black people. Like the work that he's done for countless presidents and administrations, he just keeps getting downplayed, and he's got some really solid plans and some ideas.
We can't get enough. We got 2 people. We got 20 million Black people. We got 2 governors.
I mean, there ain't but 50 million Black people. So I mean, we could all fit in California. How many governors you need? Like,
oh God! But I'm just saying. So just
I get that. In my mind,
I'm respecting your mind. You know.
If I was putting something together, if I had Farrakhan at the helm and I had Claude Anderson in form of the economic restructuring, giving Boyce as a lieutenant governor.
So he's not a mayor. You saying he's more like a lieutenant governor?
I would make Boyce a lieutenant governor because they have a lot of similar ideas, but Boyce is a little more attached to today's technological shifts and how some of the market works now. If I would say because put it this way, there's about 48 million Black people and 53 million Californians. Go ahead.
No, I want to say to Sister Harris. I was thinking that, but I was going to let him finish before I said that. She said, "What about Sister Camilla Harris?" I don't see no Black. I don't see because really these are nice, but women do all the work.
It is.
I'm not trying to be funny, but they'll never get
here's
no
the problem. Here's the problem, though.
Okay.
If you ask me,
no, but it's just you.
I'm speaking. If I was in my head, I'm thinking, who can move something now? The problem is that a lot of brothers wouldn't openly follow a woman.
That's a problem.
It is, but if you're asking me real world in my head, real names, I'm not saying who's necessarily the best for the job.
I get that.
I don't think necessarily Farrakhan probably the best leader for the nation for all Black people for all our agendas. But if you're saying who could probably move the needle the most that people would follow and get behind, I don't think that all these Black men are the best at every position.
I get you.
But just to clarify, because for some people are like, well, how come we're not so and so or such and such?
I think a good question she asked. So let's get down to the mayors. We did governor. Now we're going down to the mayor. What Black people do you think for mayor? We can't get Kevin Johnson. He actually wasn't married, Yeah, I'm just being silly. You know what I'm saying? Don't nobody cuss me out.
I'm joking. I ain't gonna do
no, but you know, this is what we would do when we was talking to like our family, family talk, you know what I'm saying? Who else, bro?
Glad I ain't got no political aspirations.
Yeah, I'm glad you don't either. Because I don't either. I don't either. But brother, who do you think?
On the mayor level, if we see until some of the recent stuff, Umar got a lot of following.
You know what? I hate to say it, but that's true. I would say I hate to say it, but
until this recent stuff, if I was gonna say on a mayoral level of moving people and influence,
I mean, Big Papa,
and I think he would be solid. And the fact of the matter, and something on that, I toured around brother for a minute and did some interviews with him, spoke to him a little bit. I don't agree with all of the views, and probably not even half of them. But when it comes to, I'll be real.
It's the way you said, not even half of them. That made me laugh.
But the viewpoint on the necessity for advocacy for parents when it comes to dealing with their children and the epidemic of the special education label that's put on children and why they're ruffled through the school system. Because a lot of people don't know that the special education label is almost like a felony for an adult. Once you put that stamp on your child, it follows them to whatever district they're in. The school gets more money for special education students than it does for the other students. So once you get that brand on them, that no school wants to take that off because it's less money per kid. Like that campaign that he was on to getting parents aware, stressing advocacy for it, not putting kids on drugs for everything, for behavioral issues. Like that man was on point for that stuff. So a lot of those other things aside, like if he stayed on task and stayed on point, like if you put him, in the education department, I don't want to hear your views on white women. I don't want to hear your views on homosexuality. I don't want to hear your views on heroin. I don't want to hear your views on. I like keep it on solid. Keep it on task. That brother was solid and on point for that. So that's why I say I missed all this recent stuff that he's been in. That he was definitely solid to that. But he still has a huge following, and there's a lot of people that didn't weigh even in the midst of all this stuff. So on that level nationally.
So with the mayor, so we got Dr. Umar Johnson. We got one person.
If I'm putting together, I guess this would be my first picks. It was like a draft. I never given a thought like this, so you're here for the process. I've never put this analogy together before. So
I feel like we just got to start asking.
This is not a go-to. Like I don't have a thing at home. Like this is off the top of my head, and I guess maybe to particular people that have maybe hit my radar, because I'm not the most plugged in. So I'm sure there's I'm sure there's a whole grocery list of names of people that somebody can chime in and say, what about so and so? What about such and such? This is just my limited experience.
That's all right. I'll take it though, brother. Because let me say this, I think we need to hear from people like you without all of the I'm an expert, because I think that's what happened to Brother Umar. I'm an expert in this. Now, when people blow your head up, and Malcolm X talked about that a lot in terms of people making you believe that you're bigger than the people, but the people who are sometimes the best to advise is the one that's on the ground and the one with no spotlight on, because they can see more. When a spotlight on, you can't see nothing. So you're always relying on other people to tell you, well, who is really out there? Because I can't even see who out there, because I'm blinded right now, and I think I know every damn thing. So that's why I'm gonna ask you, like Dr. Umar, and all the people you mentioned, I've listened to. I really have listened to or been in their presence. Yeah.
So I'm. That would move for like in the
mayor. Now we are mayor, so it's not like the president or the governor. Now we're talking about the mayor. Pushing
agendas, pushing like actually moving something. Yeah, I'm a little light here. I'm a little I'm trying to think of who's a counterpart or close to.
Yeah, these city council members.
There are some good brothers that I've known over the years. And this is a brother, he's not involved in the quote unquote struggle at all, but I am proud to know him and sat up under brother Eric Thomas.
Okay.
And does not involve himself in issues like that. He's most probably notably, he doesn't like to talk, probably most notably as a motivational speaker.
Okay.
But you ever heard the phrase that when you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, it's that dude. Okay. Eric Thomas. And if you're going to say who's going to be on a
city council,
something like that, a really good voice for people, you know what I mean? Like he's really about the empowerment of the individual and just a solid brother. Like, he's also a pastor, but he's just a good guy, and he galvanizes millions, but across the board culturally. Really good guy. Really good guy.
Okay, before we get off, I'm going to ask you one more thing. And Dana, you may want to be a part of this. I'll let you chime in to help the brother out. Yeah, it don't matter, girl, please. So I wrote down some things in terms of looking at the African descendants here in America. And we have some key issues: financial stuff, mental health, education, health issues in general, whether that be diabetes or obesity or whatever, historical reference. Because if you can't address this historical piece, because that's what other people are living off of. They didn't just come like, we're creating ourselves. They brought stuff from the old country, and they bring the old country wherever they go. And then the military. Got to have a military. Toni Morrison said when I seen her speak, I took a bunch of young people, and she said in order for man to rule the world, he must be able to control three things: women's bodies, the military, and the money. Women make the military because we the one who have the babies, and they go get the money. Or whatever their equivalent to money is, whether it be gold or whatever.
A governor, that made me think Colin.
Governor? Colin Powell? For governor?
I think on that level, because there's a lot of people who would get behind that brother. If he came
immediately,
if he came with a solid agenda and he was like, "This is what we gonna do,"
and he has the real experience.
Yeah, so see, like I said, sometimes I just need to hear stuff, whatever. I don't know why I forgot it, but if he was, because if he sat there and said, "Look, this is what we gonna do," this is the plan that I put together in my wheelhouse. Like, this is what I'm knowledgeable of, like yourself for the military side. I think you get brothers behind him. I think he's got the pedigree that brothers would.
So, Walter, you saying Colin Powell? Anybody else besides Colin Powell that would be good to structure military?
Not that you could get a quicker movement. Not that there's more. Not that there's not more qualified. But I think with us as a people, there needs to be a degree of celebrity for us to get behind you.
Wow.
Because that's what we need. That
talk, like rock star.
Yeah, you need that. You need to be box office for us to be like, I'm gonna get behind you.
Yeah. No, really, I really think.
Like I said, my respect for the brother in a particular lane.
Somebody's sister said no young leaders though. That's a good question.
That's where you would get low.
That's a good.
That's where you would get on the bottom level, because
like city council.
Yeah, well, like. So if you get,
that's the most bottom you can get.
Well, no, but I'm saying, like, so if you say the mayor, the people who are in the town, like in the city moving, and that's when you start talking about. Oh, if you're going to administration, they'd be the equivalent of a. Do
you know any young people who you think will make good leaders inside of administration?
See, the problem is that you don't know.
Oh.
Like, so I see so many young men who are promising. So you gotta kind of then. The bad part is that either they're not moving that way yet, but you see hints of it, or you're seeing like if he just tapped into that, because there's guys who can mobilize. You can get a J. Cole who can mobilize a bunch of young. No, but the degree of celebrity makes a difference. You can get some young men who would get behind dudes like that with a particular message. But see, you got to put it in the hierarchy. People in the town.
Are we the only group who do that? So let me give you an example. One of my friends who's married to a Japanese woman, I hope he's still married. I remember one day was watching Martin at their house, and I was laughing and blah, blah, blah. And then somebody made a comment like, he would be real. They're talking about Martin Lawrence. God, a lot of people listen and follow him, and we were joking. He said, like, and because he lived in Japan for a while, he says, our entertainers are just that. They're here to entertain in Japanese culture. They will never be the mayor. They will never be anything of importance that has to do with the security and the mobility of community, because their job is to make us laugh.
Yes.
And we never look at them at that position because they're jokes.
They're jesters, yeah.
But in our thing, we look at wanting to be entertained and feeling good instead of getting to work in.
Well, that's American culture, because we made Donald Trump president as a nation.
But he ain't running nothing.
No, but
it's like Obama ain't running nothing.
But I'm saying, but as a culture of America, because it's the same thing with Ronald Reagan. Like, I mean, this country will make somebody who's familiar to him, that they see all the time, that they have a good feeling about, and hoist them up like they're in any way, shape, or form qualified for a particular position. I think with us, the issue is that the only way we end up so much in the public eye is through some form of entertainment. So there's people, I'm sure, nationwide who are doing the work within their cities. And if you went to a particular city and asked who's the guy in those circles, people, or that woman, they could probably say so-and-so or such and such, but they don't get the platform to be seen on the wide, you know what I mean?
So I will say this, I agree with you, then I'll disagree, because a lot of our presidents have served in the military some shape or form.
Yeah.
That's why they have no respect for anybody who dodged the military, who was president.
Yeah. Because
people tend to vote like, did this person serve the country? Because if he did, then I know he would know my plight as a veteran.
Yes.
So it wasn't about them just being an entertainer. Even with Ronald Reagan, he was a cowboy actor.
Well, no, but that's not
even that was like John Wayne.
Yeah, that's not even a disagreement. Like I said, the idea of hoisting up an entertainer is an American thing to a political thing.
Yeah, but with black folks, you could be an entertainer and be white and still take care of the people who's going to secure you.
Oh yeah, these are all.
When somebody's an entertainer, we just like them.
Yeah, these aren't all mutually exclusive points. Like, yeah, these are.
Right.
It's the same reason why after her speech they were calling for Oprah to run.
Oprah, you think she almost had?
You know what I'm saying? Like you'd have thought Oprah. They was talking about Oprah for president in 2020 for a speech she gave at an award show. You know what I'm saying? So and that's not just black people. So I'm saying that's an American.
But they got a plan for her though. They saying that, but they have an actual plan. We just want to feel good by seeing the sister.
But I mean, but that process is an American thing. Like, you don't go to a lot of other cultures where they want to make their TV star.
That's right.
You know what
my friend was saying.
That's more of an American thing. It's an American culture thing.
You're right, brother. So let me ask you real quick.
Yeah.
So the military, we're going to pick Colin Powell. What about in terms of financial? like helping our community to get it right. But it
That's
still
what
be
we
Dr.
Claude.
Boyce.
That would be Dr. Claude Anderson, and then his Robin, his Batman would be Dr. Boyce.
Okay. What about mental health?
As much as he knows the education system, Umar covers that too.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
What about education? And I don't mean like let's go get some degrees, because Black folks, we have more degrees than anybody else.
Application of knowledge for
yes, and applying it to build something.
I don't know who's in charge of education. I'm not going. I don't know.
So that slot will be open. Because I mean, number 45 has several slots open.
Yeah, because
we can leave that open.
I'm going to say, because personally, I can say I've not really looked into.
Even if it's somebody locally that you think is, you know,
who I put in charge of education.
You know anybody locally? It's like that person would be really good as Secretary of Education.
And it's not disrespect if I know you, because I know some people in different political circles. Off the top of my head, if I'm thinking about who am I putting in charge for this, I am drawing a blank.
What about for health, Department of Health, this period, just health? And considering the state of Black people health-wise, diabetes, hypertension, cancer, like who would
that's
be
wide open though? Like I can't think of anybody who's.
You can put a team in there. You can say
you could put
Queen Afua, like for naturopathic.
Yeah, I mean he passed. It would have been Dr. Sebi, but I'm saying, you know what I'm saying, but
does he have we call that like a protege, or
I don't
Dr.
know.
Sebi would be good.
I don't know.
I'm just gonna put him down there, and maybe somebody.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's who I would go to first, but I don't know who.
Wow, let's see. Okay,
I don't know who's next. You know what I mean?
This may be a stretch.
Because even
you don't think Queen Afua would fit like as a Batman?
I'm not overly knowledgeable.
Stuff is really good.
I'm not knowledgeable enough to.
Okay. And plus,
I'm not gonna act like I am. I don't.
No. I'm just asking. She's a woman, so but it's okay.
Okay, so here's something too. I'm honest.
No, you're good. No, you're good, brother. I love when you're working for.
There are some women that I listen to. Okay, like when it comes to political stuff, like I love Angela Rye. Okay. Like I love Angela Rye.
Okay. So for politics,
like who give you can take it, dissect it, and break it down. Yeah. Angela Rye is phenomenal to me. And then even Maxine Waters for a lot of the work that she does. So it's not like, but overall, I have a tendency more to listen to men.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I wasn't looking for a passport. I was just
no. I'm just saying. No.
I
was just saying yes because I'm the same way because I listen to women more. I don't really listen to men.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, this is different, but it's okay because it's coming from your brain. But I would have never picked half the people on here, including your president.
But so I listen to Farrakhan. So I usually tap in maybe once a week or so and just go do some readings or listen to some stuff regular. So, like I said, it's not that there's not other people there. I'm just going off of
I appreciate that.
Listen to. So, and I'm not the end all be all for what everybody need to get behind. So, that's just
your opinion is valuable, and we need your opinion. Honestly, we never really get to talk to like a real Black man and like this is who I listen to. This is who you know what I'm saying? And hold the line like, no, this is really who I listen to.
Yeah, this is who that's kind of who. Like I'm kind of all over the place too. The stuff that I listen to. So like I don't have married ideologies, so I'm not married to them. So to me, I listen to stuff, take it in, process it for what works for me and for my vision, scope for my life, and kind of apply it or discard it.
Is religion important?
Yes and no. Okay. So I think the words part matter. Religion is just a series of rituals and attached to your spirituality. So religion is not important to me. Okay. The spirituality side is. So to me, I'm a firm believer that when your mind, your body, and your spirit are in alignment, that's when you're good. However you get there is up to you. So if you get there by prayer, if you get there by meditation, if you get there by fasting, if you pray to a cross, a star, a lucky penny, or a bottle cap. I'm for real.
I don't like the rhyme of your words, but that's
you know what I'm saying. Who am I to tell you that praying to that bottle cap didn't get you through that bout with alcoholism, through depression, control your anger? Who am I to tell you that's not how
real?
You know what I'm saying? So whatever gets you in that alignment, whatever gets you in that space, that's for you. I think an upside when I grew up, when I was born, I was the only one of my siblings when my family converted. So I grew up. My family was Jehovah's Witness, and so. The upside to that is there's a lot of reading. Okay, Jehovah's Witnesses have an amazing literacy program. Like you will never find an illiterate witness. Like there's a lot of reading involved. But a lot of that is you learn the history of where most customs and holidays and all that stuff comes from. So a lot of the day-to-day stuff now, like I have no attachment to holidays. Like I just have no, you know. And so for me, there's some stuff that I stepped away from, and I was kind of like, they also teach you, you're not supposed to choose a religion because somebody gave it to you. Like you're not supposed to be, they teach you all the time. So we don't want you here because your parents are making you go here. You're supposed to go out into the world and figure it out and then decide this is where you want to be. So when I got older, I went away and I was looking at Buddhism. I was looking at Islam. I was looking at Hindu. Like I was just like, let me just see what's out here, what's out in these streets. And so I was looking at different faiths, and I kind of found a system that worked for me. It helped, meditation and stuff to help me process my thoughts and resolve things. I will say when I pray, if I pray to Jehovah. If there's a name that I would use, but usually I just talk because I do believe it's more a relationship than the ritual. And when I get into my moments, I know how to calm myself and get good. So, but there's not one, there's no jacket I wear that says this is who I'm repping. So
that's awesome. I like
you know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't got a jacket on and say this is who I'm repping. So for me, I think that spirituality is important, but I'm not, that's why I say I'm a little different. So some other people will tell you, no, this is the way, you got to be this. If you don't have this, then you won't have nothing. And I'm not going to tell for you. Like for you, that if that's particular set of rituals, it was what keeps your family together, keeps your marriage together, keeps you off that bell tower with that rifle, whatever it is that you need to be straight, more power to you. You know what I'm saying? So I don't care about religion, but I think spirituality is a big component.
That's interesting. The other day I interviewed a sister from Chicago. Well, she lives in Chicago. She fantastic business, blah, blah, blah. And she's a Scientologist. And she talked about all of the reading that they did. Yeah. Black woman, intelligent, she's still Afrocentric, all of that. But she said, if you got a problem, there's a book for that. So the answer is there, but I think it seems like some of us don't want to do the work to find out how comfortable we really are. Because when you do spirituality, you have to work at it. It's not like turn to the book of price, look at your sin, and pay the toll bill. It kind of don't work like that. You have to kind of be on a journey.
Buddhism saved me in some respects. I was up in the hills in Humboldt County, if you're familiar with this area, up in a little town near Eureka. It's like Eureka, Fortuna, Arcata. I was up in there, that's what led to me traveling too. So I was 23. In about a 6-week time period, I lost my job, the girl I was seeing, a bunch of money, and wrapped my car around a telephone pole, ultimately losing my home. It was a bad month and a half. So that was like struggle for real. So it was like, I ended up leaving and going to Italy because I was like, I refuse to believe the world is as bad as Sacramento, California, was my thought process. I was like, what was I born under a bad sign? Like, was there a ladder I didn't see, a mirror I dropped? Like, what did I do? Who did I anger that I'm just catching L's like every 3 days? And it got me, I was in Italy for a while. Then I got to Spain. I started one in the country, made my way to the other. I was, meeting all kind of different people. I went back to Spain again. I was in South America. I was on a farm up towards Montana, passed through a couple of reservations. I was walking the earth like Canaan Kung Fu. So eventually I was in Eureka up in Humboldt County, and I was just in this hotel room, and the realization truly settled in. It took me logging in damn near 40,000 miles to realize that my problem was me. And a bunch of unresolved stuff I had, a bunch of stuff that I was carrying with me like a backpack. And it took centering, like that whole time shift of your past, your present, your future. You are living too much in this year as opposed to right now. Like you're projecting too much for there because of what was happening here. Like center with where you are and what you got going on. Like I learned about breathing and meditation, all that stuff through that channel, through that thing. I didn't walk around, with a tie-dye shirt on and some Birkenstocks, but it was just like I had learned some practices that worked for me. I started studying different philosophers and different just cultures and stuff in life and studying people. And like I got better points of reference and understanding. And like I said, my focus was me. I wasn't out there trying to fix anybody else. I'm like, I got plenty of work over here. Like I got peak time. I got no anytime minutes to working on nobody else. So I spent all my time figuring out me, like what was my little things and my triggers and stuff that was going on with me. But I learned that from looking at a bunch of different faiths.
If someone was listening, they wanted to get some words of wisdom from you in terms about building a business, what would you say to them?
Any business?
Any business. I'm going into business. I think I want to take what I'm doing now and make it a real business. What words of encouragement could you share?
First off, so this is generic business. I do this at home. I want to make this into a business and be successful at. First off, make sure you understand and love the process. So make sure you're sure about that before you get started, because you're going to catch L's before you see W's. You know what I'm saying? So make sure you love the process. Do the research on the business. Do your due diligence for whatever it is that you're trying to do. Hopefully you have a passion for it, because that's going to get you through the days that you don't want to go to work. You know what I mean? But I think these things, starting a business, I would say the same to anybody who want to get married. You know what I mean? Or anybody who want to have a family. Make sure that you trust the process, embrace the process, figure out who you are, your strengths, double down on your strengths. Don't beat yourself up over your weaknesses. Ultimately, if you can perfect your strengths, you can hire somebody for your weaknesses. Get into a space that you're good, that you can do this every day and be okay with it. Because your mental feeling about this, your emotional state will more often than not dictate the success of the business. Most people, once it gets to the point where you take an L after L, the register's light, you're paying out of your savings to pay your employees, like you robbing Peter to pay Paul, you stressed, problems at home, your bills at home are still coming, and you get shaky on the dream, you know what I mean? And your emotional stability isn't there anymore. Then where you used to stay 2 hours after to make sure, now it's out. Or now you're just clocking out when it's time to leave. When you used to come in early with passion to make sure everything's set up, now you just kind of showing up 15 minutes before you kind of need to start. That energy becomes contagious to anybody you're around. All that sort of stuff. So make sure you're in it. You try to find something that you're passionate about. Make sure that you're willing to fall in love with the process, that learning the steps, learning to fail, learning to take those knocks on the chin. You can't go into this afraid to get hit. You can't be a boxer afraid to get hit. You got to stick your chin out like a prize fighter. Like, you got to be Roy Jones in it. Like, understand that you're going to take some and be okay with that and learn and understand why you got hit. Anybody I know to start doing a business, I find out where you are first. Like, who are you? Like, are you like everything I do? I always start with the individual. Your product can be phenomenal, but if you ain't right, it's going to fail.
Words of wisdom around being the best man you can be. What are some of the key words that keep you going? I'm doing summary right now. That's why
okay. I started with figuring out what your core values are. Figure out what is it you stand on, because we say all kind of stuff, and then when we what can you stand on? What can you sit there and say that this is not a wavering position? This is not a in my feelings kind of moment. Like, what are your core values for how you carry yourself, what you're about? Like, to me, everything I do is based upon my last name. So the company was Morris Corp. The site is a moment with Morris.com. I came up under some, like, the thought process was you need to trade on your name. Like, your name needs to be good, that you can do all your business by your name and a handshake. All the guys that work for me, we don't do all the paperwork stuff. Our word and a handshake. And a dollar is a dollar. 5 o'clock is 5 o'clock. Monday is Monday. Like, if your word is not valid, if $100 at 5 o'clock on Monday turns into $50 at 2:30 on Thursday, in my eyes, you ain't it. So that's how I deal with it when it comes to business. The first day you tell me it's gonna be 5 o'clock, $100 on Monday, and it's anything other than that, you have already showed me who you are. So get yourself a set of core values that you can stand by, that not only that you hold other people to, but yourself. Don't sit there and be the dude that's like $100 at 5 o'clock. Meanwhile, you trying to make payments and trying to let stuff slide and duck it. So I would say, if you're talking about being a man, the stuff that I found for me, I had to figure out what was important to me, and figure out what wasn't. When you're young, you're given a whole fishing net full of ideas and information and values and morals and all this stuff. You at some point have to open that net out and start fishing out all the trash that got caught up in that net. There's a whole bunch of stuff you carry around with you that does not fit you, serve you, doesn't appreciate your life, or it doesn't mean anything to you significant. So you need to go through there and start figuring out, man, out of this whole big old 20-pound net, ain't but 3 ounces what's actually me. I got a net full of trash that everybody threw their stuff away with that I've been carrying around with me. You know what I'm saying? So
Man.
I would say that figure out who you. Everything I say is always starts with the self. Figure out where you are, what you want, what you need, the type of people you want to be around. Because you don't get out of life what you want, you get out of life what you are. So if you want to sit there and say that I want everybody to be trustworthy, I want everybody to be upfront, I want everybody to keep it real, but you keep it faulty, then what you expect? That goes into the other point. You know, sometimes your soulmate is ugly. Sometimes this is the life that you deserve. So if you ain't living it, if you're not being it, you can't expect it. So figure out what it is you want, who you are, what you need to offer, what you need to give and to bring, and to give without looking for reciprocation, and to love without being loved back. You love because you love. You don't love because I'm trying to get something for it. I'm not there for you so you can be there for me. I'm there for you because I feel like being there for you. I could just as easily turn off my phone. So it's like, you know, move and operate in the space that's who your genuine self is. There are people who think I'm a nice guy. There are people who think I'm an a-hole on the regular. It just depends on our experience and our interaction. But I'm always myself. So you just got to figure out who you are, whatever it is you're trying to do.
You know, Brother Jamil said, I like brother. He is what a cool Marine drill instructor. He's like, that's like, okay, he'll kick your ass, but he'll be sounding like Billy D. Will. Yeah,
okay, so the radio show, the theme of the radio show, the show, A Cold Cup of Coffee, the tag is it's real life without the sweeteners, a cold and sometimes bitter but necessary sip of reality. That's the show.
Okay.
That's basically how I live. I'm gonna wrap a towel around the back before I hit you with it.
Totally last question. Totally. I did this in summary on the two topics, building a business and brothers. Yeah. If you could find, I know this is kind of hard. I know it's kind of, well, 4 words that could describe you. Oh, 4 words.
4 words that could describe me? You came across me?
Yeah.
He's an acquired taste.
Oh, okay.
Because I ain't for everybody. That could be up for too. I don't know. Jermaine Morris as advertised. Like, this is pretty much it. Like there's not all these people. Depending on how you know me, there may be different layers because you know me in different facets of life or different experiences or occupations or whatever. But I'm still me wherever I am. So
you still you.
I'm still me wherever I'm at. So it's you probably won't meet another one. Okay. I got a bunch of siblings and families. I'm still a little off one. But yeah, I don't know. But the videos help. The videos make sense.
No, they all make sense. So what I got is that Brother Jermaine is an acquired taste as advertised, still you, and will not meet another.
Good.
Okay. That's how I do. I'm doing summaries. I kind of do that, particularly with men folk. I don't know why that is, but I kind of do that with y'all because you guys talk about a lot of things. It's like, I know that a lot of people do footnotes.
Yeah.
I do footnotes. I look like, this is a great book. Let me see if I want to read it. And I'll go to where people put, they look like, okay, I'm going to read the book.
Okay.
Some people do that. And then some people read the whole book. I'll do that too, but I got to feel like I'm not going to fall asleep.
I get that.
I'm sorry.
Hopefully I'm keeping the people entertained.
No, you are. No.
Okay.
And I get entertainment, but I also know there has to be some work in it.
Yeah.
And that's why I think I get concerned when we want to be entertained without the work.
I try to do both. Like the premise that I do with the stuff, I would say that at least you can somewhat be entertained, and at the end you'll inadvertently learn something. Like you just go like, oh man, that was good. Oh, then you'll find yourself quoting something later. Like, you know, that's kind of the. Well.
Thank you, Jamil. Brother, thank you so much for coming on. Did you want to ask me anything, Dana, before we sign off? Girl, it don't even matter.
You got me here.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm telling you, I don't do these.
He's great. I was envisioning trying to have a group of people in here with a bunch of questions, and then they just give them to you. And I believe that you could ask questions as long as it's respectful.
Yeah.
But I feel like for a lot of women, what would sue a lot of stuff that I see is having a man to answer some things, not from a this is the politically correct way, like, sis, you know, blah, 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 not in a bad way. Like, that's because you're nasty. It's kind of like, well, you did a lot of like, well, I don't just, what is that about? Where is this coming from? Yeah. You know, how do you get people to look inside of themselves? How do you get? I mean, that takes a special skill set. It's not like being a psychologist. It's like knowing the proper handling of people, or how do you? He kind of said it's like a really good grandmother will hug you, but she would kick your butt at the same time.
Yeah.
It's kind of like being able to do that.
Okay, well, and keep it true that I have had some actual formal training too. So I
agree,
still
but you're
mixing
mixing that with something.
Yeah, I studied abnormal behaviors
training,
and chemical dependencies, like the thesis I was working on, and so like I've actually studied stuff. I just
no, but you studied.
I should have prefaced that too. I didn't get all this from.
I know people who have PhDs, and I'm not talking about a public high school diploma.
Yeah,
I'm talking about people who have degrees and they're crazy as hell.
Yeah.
They did no work,
yeah.
but they can say, "I read this book and that means I'm an expert."
Yeah.
And then when you go on to the subject, like this person is crazy as, you know what I'm saying?
No,
so I feel like there has to be something else. Oh Lord, I definitely had it. Like I'm like, no, I don't know what you're talking about because I'm trying to deal with my stuff. That's I'm not perfect. I'm not like, I got my stuff together. Like when people talk, I'm like, yeah, okay.
I just figured out a way to keep juggling the ball. They just ain't hit the floor yet. That's all. But
thank you so much, brother, for spending these 2 hours.
Sure, you ain't got enough. I was telling you before, so I don't do these.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah,
I don't do these interviews typically.
Yeah, well, got this, brother, y'all.
Okay, so let me just say I wasn't able to. I was toggling in and out because I was over at the beauty supply, so I'm not sure. Really where maybe you all might have already addressed this and I might have to go back and listen to it. But I really love, let me premise this by saying I really love talking to Jermaine. I told you that. Yeah. I like talking to Jermaine because he's very confident in his manhood, I feel like. Yeah. And he will allow you to be who you are and he's going to be who he is. And it's just cool. Like you don't have to switch it up for Jermaine. And I love that about you.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask you this. What advice would you give to a woman who is raising a male child? What advice would you give to her?
In respects to what?
In respects to everything that they need to know.
Oh.
And I know that a lot of things, and a lot of things that I'm sorry, and I know that a lot of things that they need to know, a lot of things that we all need to know, we kind of learn along the way.
Yeah. But
you know that there are some basics. I've been told that I'm very hard on my son, and I think I do that because again, I always think about his wife and my grandchildren.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that might be a lot of pressure for a 16-year-old, but I really want him to be a leader.
No, I get that. Men were typically purposeful at our best. Like if you ever want to see the best example of a man, it's not when he's at home with his family, it's when he's at a job that he loves. Mm-hmm. If you ever see a man when he's at the job that he loves being at, that guy is the guy. Where he's got respected amongst his peers, he knows what he's doing, he knows how to get the job done, he's firing on all cylinders, he's making stuff happen. That's usually one of the best versions of him. You know what I'm saying? So giving him purpose and putting a degree of structure with him is fine. Like that's, I don't know how hard is hard on him. I don't know if you know more wire hangers, but but putting structure around him is fine. He'll find a purpose that works for him, and then that's where you'll start to see. Because he'll get pride and accomplishment. He'll get that in himself. That'll continue to drive him and push him. Like I said, as a husband, you don't know if you're a great husband. You don't know if you're a great father. That will come down the road. But you know if you're good at your job. You know if you're respected amongst your peers. And if you know you can go out and set a goal and make it happen when you're supposed to. Do those things that people, man, that's going to be a 6-day job and you got it done in 4. You know what I mean? You're not going to have enough time to get that finished. You get it with an extra 30 minutes. Like that's a right there moment. And so, putting structure on them and all that stuff is fine.
Anything else?
Did you guys talk about male and female relationships?
A little bit.
Somewhat.
We touched on that a little bit. But do you have a specific question that you want?
She's trying to go.
No. I just want to make sure. Oh, no, I'm actually sitting up here doing the next sister I'm interviewing. One of my, definitely the second one, Sister Danielle. God, what is her last name? I think that is Truitt. I'm gonna be interviewing her on Tuesday. She did the show Rebel with John Singleton, the television show. She's right here in Sacramento. I'm interviewing her on Tuesday. So.
Oh, that's really good. I talked to her brother and sister who work with her.
Her aunt do my hair. I mean, when I say
yeah, because I wanted her to do some mentorship.
Yeah, got a question. I'll be talking on Tuesday.
No, not one. See, because I could just hit him up and ask. No, not really. I think you guys have answered all of the questions, and I don't know. I'm kind of preoccupied a little bit because my son broke his arm, and then I know it's something that my daughter needs. So I'm sorry, you guys. I'm all over the place.
No,
I'm just a little preoccupied, but I really enjoyed the conversation that I heard thus far. I can't wait to go back and listen to it in its entirety. I'm so glad that you put up this website and all that.
And all your stuff up.
Thank you.
Twitter, everything.
Yeah, everything is up. So I'm happy that you did that, and I just think that everybody should just tap in because he's a cool guy.
I do have a question though. When should a person get a divorce?
When? As in, like, how bad does it get before you should get a divorce?
What's usually the breaking point? Or just in general?
Well, first, I mean, statistically, you could say that money.
I don't want to wash his hair now.
Well, statistically, the top reason why you get divorced is over money. It's over some religious or belief system contradiction, or some degree of sex, either infidelity or sexual incompatibility. So, depending upon what you could, how much you can take, is there any change when the issue is addressed? If you get with somebody who doesn't see anything wrong with their behaviors, at some point you might just throw in the towel because you're like, this person does not think that they're doing anything wrong. So I can either swallow this, or I can, whatever. I don't know if there's a time frame. I think the number one reason why, shout out to brother Corey Holcomb, he had the best. He said the number one reason why people get divorced is because you effing with somebody that ain't really effing with you like that.
Whoa, that makes sense.
You got with somebody who you was 100 on, who was 75 with you.
That's really good.
So you got with you were effing with somebody that wasn't really effing with you like that. So when that's the case, as soon as something comes up, it's going to get exposed in the behavior because I wasn't really effing with you like that. Like, it was circumstantial. It was just in the moment. I was in my feelings. It was, I needed a place to stay. Like, it was whatever was going on. And as soon as the rubber meet the road, it's time to cut. So, making sure that when you pick your mate, I think that you can tell if somebody in it or not. I mean, you can tell if somebody's legitimately making changes. If you address a problem and there's no growth, no change, no acknowledgement of guilt, not just I'm sorry, but I'm acknowledging what I did. Here's what I was thinking when I did it. Like, here's what, because a lot of people don't want to hear that. If you find out you got cheated on, you just want them to say sorry and I won't do it again. You might want to figure out how you got there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I kept telling you I was lonely. You kept saying you were busy. When I kept saying I needed you to come home, it wasn't just because I wanted to watch movies. Like the disconnect became a long-going issue. You started putting other things ahead of me. Your spending habits are problematic because I want to retire at some point. Like, you are out for you, and I need you to be down for us. Like, whatever, you got to start working, figuring out how you got there. And if you got somebody who's not willing to do that, you might as well cut bait in, because you're going to be, you're going to have to concede to them sleeping around, or you have to concede to getting a second job, or you have to concede to just not being happy. So I think when it's time to get a divorce is when y'all can look across from each other and just be like, why are we doing this? Like, don't be free. That's just my thought process.
No, I think that sometimes it feels good just to hear that from a male perspective. Because sometimes women are like, girl, I left him, but never really.
First off, that's not even true. Statistically shown, that's not true.
I'm just saying.
No, I'm saying that. I'm just saying,
because
that whole thing. If a woman, if he ever cheated on me, I'm out. No, you're not. If he ever put his hands on me, I'm gone. No, you're not. If he ever came up with another baby, that's it. No, it's not. Statistically shows across the board, every way, shape, or form, ain't none of them deal breakers. So
for some people, because when you have options, you use them. When most people don't have options, they stay.
Yes. That's
like being in any kind of relationship. There's always a buy-in. Mm-hmm. People just don't stay because they really in love. They stay because this person is financially helping them. I mean, they don't have a lot of choices. Women who have choices leave.
Yes and no.
I mean,
well, good. No. First off, I say yes to say yes. I agree with what you're saying.
But most people, like, especially that includes not wanting to work.
Yeah, but some of them they're emotionally bankrupt.
I agree with that.
So their financial system is fine. They can afford to be single. but their value system and self-worth may be tied into the mate that they chose. There's linked to that relationship because I'm married. And that somehow ups my status amongst the women that I know, or the community I'm in, or the family that I've got. Like I'm married. That puts me in a completely different category. I'm not willing to change that in for divorce.
But that's a buy-in.
It is. But I'm saying, like some of them, some of them can financially, and they can do it on their own. But you gotta trade that out. You gotta change status.
It's a buy-in.
Yeah.
Not to come home and be alone for some women is a buy-in.
Oh yeah, no, a bad man is better than no man at all for a lot of women.
Well, I grew up with that. Was such a horrible thing to say. Is to have a piece of man and no man at all. As a woman,
yeah,
that I thought was just a horrible piece of advice for an elder to give me. It's best to have a piece of man and no man at all. It's like, are you crazy? You know how many women got HIV from these are single women, these are married women.
But these numbers in these streets, if we talk, I know you're looking to close out, but I mean,
no, go ahead, brother.
I'm up here working. We in Sacramento, California, where the ratio is almost 2.5 women to every man.
If you're waiting for a black man,
no,
there are other men here.
Well, I'm just starting the base criteria. It's about 2.5 women to every man in Sacramento. When you incorporate, because the housing market got so high in the Bay Area, we got a lot of transplants from the Bay into Sacramento. That also drastically increased, but that increased our homosexual population.
Oh, that's true. I didn't think
which changes the heterosexual female to male ratio close to 4 to 1. Now, if you're specifically looking for a black man, it's probably about 7 or 8 to 1. So the fact of the matter is, if you're a dude in Sac, it's why the most dusty ass dude got a rotation of top notch dimes, and he ain't got ish to offer because he stays in demand. Because he stay in rotation. He stay in rotation. He like a Drake song. Like he just stay in rotation. And if you don't want him, before the sun sets on that night, he will have a soft place to land. So now, if that's the thought process for the dude, women become disposable in one respect. Yeah. And if you're a woman specifically waiting for a black man, your options become limited. You play in the waiting game, and then you might have to start making concessions. Or 30% of what it is you said you want may be better than 0% of what it is you feel you need. So there are women who will say, I'll take a piece of man over no man at all, and I'm going to make this work, try to make it do what it do, try to just figure it out, like just whatever, because statistically, the same way that a black woman is more statistically inclined to be more successful than a black man, black dudes got way more options when it comes to looking for a female counterpart.
But I think, and I agree with you, I'm not disagreeing, I agree with you, but I think it's always been that way.
Well, I'm talking about just for this city. Yeah. These numbers have changed here.
I think we've always had black women taking men who they shouldn't even be messing with. Yeah. Most of us did not have the choice of this internet. Most people I've known from old school, because I'm about a couple of years older than you. I'm 6 years older than you. Okay. So, but my mother, like, is she alive? She'd be in her 70s. Okay. That's a very different generation. Yes. She's the baby of her group of 12.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? So I know that women who did not have choices. People didn't wander out and meet somebody on the Facebook, or they went off to college. And there are people who did not. Yeah, you got to deal with what you had. Right, you got to deal with what you had. And it's because the outcomes are still the same. The outcomes didn't change. Yeah. Still got single mamas. Still got 70% of the homes are headed by a single parent woman. Well, that didn't just start.
No.
Yeah, from slavery we didn't really have a man. So I'm just saying the outcomes are still the same. And I think part of the outcomes is, as women, some of us really do believe that what a man's opinion is matter. Some of us are looking for you to say, this is what you need to have a good man, instead of being like, have some damn standards and wait. Yeah. Most of us is not going to do that.
Well, here's the thing, too, though, that there is a horrific standard of what manhood and womanhood is.
I agree with that.
So when you see all these things of a boy does this, a man does that, some of the worst propagated information you could put out and put in the hands and the eyes of small boys and girls. That anyway that, what is it? He's a boy if he's not married. A boy dates, a man gets married. So is a woman not a woman if she's single? Because if we're gonna say that a man isn't, if we're gonna say a man is not, if we're gonna say that a man is not a man because he didn't take a wife, is a woman not a woman because she don't have a husband?
Here's the thing. I think maybe if you're attached to a religious community, but I've never known a man to have any standards.
Well, no, but I'm talking about,
we put the woman on the hook. Where's your husband? How did you get pregnant? I got pregnant.
Well, I don't know how much you on the internet now.
No. I
that's what I'm saying.
I'm just saying. I think it really depends on your environment. I'm surrounded by a lot of women and a lot of very successful women.
Yeah.
And a lot of women who came out of feminist movements and Black Power movements and the Panthers, and
Yeah.
I followed them around the world. So for them, their reality is like, no, I'm really from Big Bap, Georgia, but I ain't claiming that reality.
Yeah.
That's why I live out the box.
Yeah.
So then you don't have all this. When you're a woman trying to live in the box, that's when you have to inherit the standards that's in the box.
But that's where a lot of these women are coming up now the last decade.
That's
that they get fed all this nonsense stuff to where they're told that this is what a man is. And then men the same thing. Like the whole, you know, if she's not a real woman, if she can't cook, if she can't do this and that, whatever. Okay, so a woman without a child is less of a woman?
I've
A
heard
woman who can't
like
cook
that.
is less of a woman. If you don't know how to cook a steak, you're not a real woman.
You start with me. I'll cook.
You understand? But these are,
I'm messing with you.
But who started that though? Did society say that?
because it sounds cute. Because it sounds cute in a little meme. It sounds cute in a little IG post. It sounds cute when you know, that's right up there with the Marilyn Monroe quote. If you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. Really, bro?
What?
Like if I can't, you don't know that quote. That quote gets shifted around so much amongst these little girls. That if you can't handle me at my worst, what that means is, so if I don't handle your psychotic behavior, I don't deserve your love. Like, is that what that means? Like, I mean, but these are things that these young girls get on board with and start campaigning on. That's what they be trying to stand on.
I agree, but I also think, and I'm agreeing with you there, but I also think we're not all in the same fishing bowl. And what I mean by that is that, I don't know, there's just some things I don't key into. Like if I'm talking to, I'll give you an example. I have a particular sister friend, hope she's not watching. We can make plans, and if a man calls for a date, oh, God, I remember, man, that's why you can't keep one. Tell his ass you have an appointment, let's make another date. Like, stop being so desperate. But she's one of those women who believe that she has to have a man, even though she treats her man crazy.
but along with that is what your track record look like. Because it's not just a woman thing. It's not just a woman thing. Because there are dudes.
I only get it from the woman's side.
But that's what I'm saying. So I'm the example I'm giving from the dudes.
Like,
I know dudes who don't ever get that phone call to come through. They don't ever get that text what you're doing. So whenever a woman shows the slightest bit of interest, he could be in the middle of open heart surgery. He's like, hey, I need you to close for me. Like, he's dropping everything to go. And there are dudes who have a little more accessibility, and they're like, I'll hit you back later. Like, I mean, it depends on, like we said, your options, your level of options. But go ahead, you know.
You real talk.
No, because, bro, when you just said that the lady was like
that.
Well, it just brought me to a conversation that me and Jermaine had. It was at paint night. So was that last weekend?
2 weeks, I think.
2 weeks ago.
Something like that.
And we were just talking about, let me ask you this. Let's say that there's a real busy woman. I'm not even talking about she busy with friends and hanging out, kicking it. She's just busy because she building.
Yeah.
How does that woman incorporate a man into her equation?
At some point, there needs to be a priority shift of how important is it. Because I am a firm believer in that you'll make time for what's important for you. So if a dude is 27 on your list of things, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I meet him and it's kind of cool, if it's not, whatever. That's kind of how that will go. You know what I'm saying? But and this is not just, let me slide out a time to meet a man. This is if you meet one. Like, if a man approaches you, restaurant, gym, gas station, wherever people meet. I don't even judge what folks meet. Like, wherever you happen to meet somebody. Now, some people do. They say you can't meet somebody here. You got to go here to meet somebody.
So where is a good place?
There is no such thing.
Yeah, you just have to, you
got to be you.
Yeah.
If you're
I agree with that.
If you're into the gym is probably a great place to meet somebody because it's somebody like-minded that you guys are on a similar path, working on the same thing.
Right.
If you in the club every week, the club's probably good, but y'all got stuff in common because that's what you like to do. You like to go to comedy shows, meet them at a comedy show. Church, if you're always at church. Like, there is no guarantee. Yeah, you got to find somebody that's in alignment with who you are, whatever that is. Right. So you don't want to find somebody at church if you're trying to go to the club 6 nights a week. That ain't gonna work. You know what I'm saying? Like, why waste each other's time?
Right.
You're trying to get him to sin. He's trying to get you saved. Like, it just, I mean, like, that's just a struggle every day.
No, that's
keep waking up. You got a bottle of vodka next to him. You go to bed, wake up. You got the Bible next to you. Like it's just You find somebody wherever you find them. But when you find if somebody finds you, taps you, whatever, however y'all link up, then you just decide, is this important?
Yeah. I agree.
If it is, slide out a little time. I don't think you should be ready at the drop of a hat, but you got to make some time. You know, you can't be scheduling somebody 3 weeks out. Right. You know, for every encounter, like you got to make some time.
Yeah, we had a powerful conversation. It was deep too. We was in the cold talking about this. That makes you know what, that conversation made so much sense about how you make time for what is important to you. Yeah.
I work all the time, but when it comes to things that are important, I'll reschedule stuff. I'll shift stuff around. The cement's not dry on all aspects of your calendar.
Right.
So when it comes to, man, I'm all blocked up next week. What is it? Mom's coming into town. She'll only be in town for 2 days. We're having dinner on this night. Something can get moved. You know what I'm saying? Like it's, you know, something can. And so you make time for what's important to you.
I was going to say too, I agree with that, but I was going to also, it really depends on the person. Because if you have a man that's really needy, that's kind of like ridiculous. I think it's not about, I get about you have to make time for anything you want to do.
Yeah.
But I also think it really depends on the man. Because some man may not require as much time as you think he needs. Yeah. Like there are some women who build their whole reality around the man and then get mad when he leaves you. You know what I mean? Because he maybe that's the flavor he needed while he was getting stuff together. But now that he together, he may want a different type of flavor.
That goes into the point of you effing with somebody that ain't effing with you like that.
But people don't always start off like that.
But no, but I'm saying if you got somebody that you're willing to completely manipulate your entire life schedule and everything around them, and you're not seeing that reciprocate, you'll be able to see that easily. Like if you're looking. Because this is the part that gets me too. This whole we just gonna bond up in love and feelings and emotions. Every time somebody meets you, this is a job interview. Like this stuff is astounding to me. How people just get together and act like we just gonna cohabitate or just fall in love or just lay up with each other, just have babies just off the rip. Like nah, this is a job interview. So I'll give this thought to y'all. I got this book, but I'm gonna give y'all this little bit here.
Okay.
So whenever you meet a man. It's called the relationship contract. Take this in. Take notes. Drop this book. Y'all can say that you heard it here first. Yes, the relationship contract. Ladies, when you meet a man, he is sliding you a blank piece of paper. Your job is to fill out whatever it is you want or need from him. And when you sleep with him is when the contract is signed. Meaning, you can't ask or demand anything of this man after you did not ask before you had sex with him. Meaning if he meets you somewhere and he bought you a drink at the club and took you to Denny's, what you said is that alcohol and food is what he is required to bring. Every time you hear from him, he's going to say, you want to get something to drink or you want to get something to eat? That's it. If you said, some dudes were like, man, what are you talking about? This ain't on a Steve Harvey-ish. This is just some basic parameters, almost like when you fill out a job application. Whatever it is you need from him, you start putting that in the mix before you commit. Like if you're talking about, I'm not going to completely manipulate my schedule. I'm not going to keep putting myself out there. I'm not going to screw myself over for somebody and then bounce. You need to show me something before I'm doing all this for you. Like you ain't supervised on the first day. Like you don't get to come in and get your own parking space. Like you don't get all this mess, you know. And the problem is that you have women who meet these dudes, and I can tell you firsthand, because I've been in these streets. So I'm not the dude. I'm not coming from a religious platform. Ain't no pastor. I got 2 uncles that are pastors. I ain't one of them. Okay. I keep saying all the time, I'm still walking my heathen path. Any women that I've met that was good to go from jump, you were in a particular category with me. So there needs to be some, and when we having fun, we don't want to hear that as dudes. Dudes now watching this like, man, why you breaking left? Why you could have just start to talk about politics and protocol. Right. Just for the betterment, if you're trying to find a dude that you're trying to work making time for, also, we're talking about, at this stage, a particular age. So you're not trying to decipher to go to the club. You probably looking for somebody to go to dinner with. Somebody have, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm assuming we're talking about grown men. So hey, I don't make the presumptions like that. I've seen some cases out there. I mean, we can talk about some other stuff too over here, but that is
no. But I think that's really important. I really do. I think you're giving up some game, which I don't know. You can still get women the game, and some of us just like to go through the motions.
Well, because some of y'all just like the dude.
Some of us like the drama.
Well, that too.
Some of us like, oh my God, he's cheating on me. What to do? When my friends call me with that, I say, girl, I'm talking about 10, 15 minutes. Girl, I got stuff to do.
Whenever I hear any of that, I said, are you venting or are you looking for help? That's the first thing. That's the first question. And the second question is, after you get through all that venting, whatever, are you staying or are you going? Because them two questions right there is going to be are you calling me because you need help getting your couch out? You need a couple dudes to come through to get your furniture and help you move your stuff out, or help escort him off the premises. I mean, or are you just venting about something? Like, are you? Because a lot of times is, like I said, a lot of this stuff ain't deal breakers. In 2018, in these streets, infidelity alone.
In these streets.
In these streets alone. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes folks mess up. Sometimes there are slip and counter stuff happen. There are some people who have patterns of behavior.
I don't believe
there are.
I was being silly.
Because I'm a firm believer that people aren't perfect. The same way you could be a great driver but run a red light once.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Or have accidents.
See, but I'm saying. So for some people, I can say that some people you could be a recovering alcoholic and slip and have a drink, and then go right back to being recovered and being straight. I think that some people make mistakes and slip up, whatever.
I agree.
So, but the fact is that if there's patterns of behavior, and even patterns of behavior, you may not be going nowhere. Because a piece of man is better than no man.
Have you ever addressed a man who was in the closet gay but didn't want to come out and say he giving relationship advice all the time, but he's really probably dealing with some homosexuality?
Have I ever known a guy like that? I would say probably. Okay, there's one dude in particular.
I just wonder.
I come across a lot of people in my life. There's one dude in particular who was always on some anti-man stuff in his quest to give relationship advice to women. And so this is my book. Shout out to Star from Star and Buck Wild, because he gets a immortal phrase, the hater misses nothing. So when you start getting a whole lot of detail about stuff, there are some in the closet dudes who badmouth dudes because these are dudes who want women. Okay, there are a lot of dudes out there who got their own agenda trying to get on board. The hater misses nothing. So whenever you come across anybody who's got nothing but negative spin, negative narrative, negative stuff to spew about anybody, you've already showed me who you are.
That's true.
The hater misses nothing. You don't take nothing else today. What are the 4 words? The hater misses nothing. Whenever I see them dudes, those are usually the type of dudes I think that you're talking about. The in the closet ones that will probably have all this relationship advice stuff that pertains to heterosexuality, but maybe unless they're open, I don't know how that.
I'm not talking about the one that's flaming. I mean,
because you could be gay without flaming. Because
that's what I'm saying. I'm not talking about the ones that's flaming. I mean, you can't miss that, but the one that be like, girl, like, and I don't even hate no dude. Sometimes always telling you what's wrong with you, and it's like, but then no one's perfect enough for you. Nobody. Blah, blah, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like sometimes that could be some in the closet,
there are gay men
metrosexuals or whatever the hell they call.
But there's gay men who compete with women.
Oh, I think we see that a lot.
Which is once again that the hater misses nothing. That if they're going over you, telling you, going you from follicle to feet, everything that you flawed about, then you right back.
Who said the hater misses nothing?
Star and Buck Wild was a show that you used to do forever.
I know someone who told me he's gay, and he told me that he was jealous of the woman.
That's what I'm saying. Like
I couldn't even believe he said, but he was serious as I wanted to.
Yeah, because you're competing for the same dude. For the same reason when somebody asked me a long time ago, do you have an issue with homosexual men? I said no. He said, why? Because that's one less man going after a woman I want. I said, if that's what you do over there, and that's in the confines of your life, and what you do does not impede upon me and what I'm doing, I don't care who you go home to. Because the reality of it is, most people that come across in business or personal life, you're going home to somebody that's not your husband or your wife occasionally after you talk to me. You're going home to somebody that you act like you ain't really about, when you go home after me. Most folks is lying anyway. So I don't care what.
That's a scary reality.
You know how many people that you've talked to that day that you know their husband or you know their wife, that after they talked to you, they went home and slept with somebody else that they wasn't married to?
Go ahead, open the door.
You know what I'm saying? Or right after they just finished, they left you to go get a hit or something. They left you to go steal from somebody. They left you. So I don't even concern myself with what folks do in their personal lives. You know, that's not even in my thought process.
So look, you're hitting on some real stuff that we should be talking about. Thank you, that we should be talking about. So Dana, help me here.
All I do is talk. So
we go all day. About the homosexuality in our community. So this is not about speaking bad, nothing like that. But the times that I've seen them interviews with Black women, I think there's a misconception that being a woman is something about hair and lipsticks and makeup and weaves, and that's so not all of what a woman is. And even a part of that is a concept we do to please man sometimes. It ain't really about I feel good when I have on lipsticks. Most of us be like, I'm tired as hell from this damn makeup. I would be out the door 30 minutes early if I had to put this damn makeup on. Yeah. So do you feel like in doing your work with young men, are you able to work with young men that are dealing with their homosexuality?
There's been a few. So yes, to answer your question, because there's been a few. So over the years, every now and then you come across, you know it if you don't know it yet. You know, I can honestly say I haven't had a personal one-on-one conversation with a young man who's conflicted with it, but I have spoken to some adults who were trying to figure out how to live because they were told their entire life by all the males around them that that's wrong. Every slur you can think of that attaches to homosexual men. They were told whether the church system they grew up in or what their mama always envisioned them marrying with grandkids, and that how much of a letdown that would be for their family to be themselves, or how much of a blemish on the community they are. You know what I mean? So I've known some dudes who were really struggling with that. That's why I say I go back to me is you can say whatever you want about me from across the street. Like, you got to be you. There's not a guaranteed time of how long you have on this planet. So if you somebody that's going to sit there and say, if that's who you genuinely are, and I'm not even making a judgment to say if you should or shouldn't. Like, if that's who you are, like, you know what's in your heart, suppressing it to get a woman just to make both your lives miserable is not a win. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, just playing the role and involving some woman in your BS because it looks good to your mama is not the business, and that's not the way you should move. So if you need to go be with who you need to be with, go on and do that. You know.
I have a question. So you're bringing me to, you guys know who J.L. King is? The guy that wrote that book, Down Low?
Oh, yes. I'm familiar with the book, but I don't know him.
I think over at the Guild Theater. Yep, I was there.
I remember years ago when the book came out.
Which was so disrespectful to women. But go ahead.
And I had two young girls with me, and now I kind of hate that I had one was my daughter, one was my niece. But they were at the time, and probably still now, they were attracted to roughnecks, right? Yeah. And I just wanted to expose them to the fact that, some roughnecks is down low. Because we as a Black community, what I got out of the book, I understand what you're saying, bro. But what I got and arrogant. But anyway, to me, that's how I
felt it. I
don't know the brother. I don't even know what he looks like.
I'm sorry. We doing a little side conversation.
I couldn't kick him out of a lineup of two. So
He's dead now, so you don't have to pick him out no way.
Okay.
But, and oh, God, I'm sorry. I don't even talk ill. I'm not even talking ill about him. But what I got out of the book, the book was so powerful, I couldn't even read the whole thing. I had to put it down. But what I did get from the book is that, and you could say how you felt too, is that we, the Black community, and the brown community too, but I'm Black, so we're talking about the Black community, we produce down low. Because we kind of don't make the environment conducive for them to be any other way but down low.
I would say we didn't. I wouldn't say that we don't.
And I wouldn't say all, because a lot of us, we know gay people, we welcome into our homes, we do a lot of stuff. So you can say some Black people, because all of us are not Christian, all of us are not.
This is not even religious.
No, because a lot of that stuff comes out
not even
I wasn't disagreeing with you. Show me
not even religious.
Show me the choir director.
I was getting
You said I ain't even Christian. I was like,
yeah, but also some women that were with men. I know a few of my friends who were married to men who was gay and in the church.
Yeah,
and they knew that their husband was, gay. Or black men. This is another category they try to run by us. Black men who sleep with women. Black men who are married but sleep with men. That just will make you gay to me. But I mean, if you want to add a bunch of sentences, because that was a title that they tried to run like about 10 years back. It's like, just say you're gay. Even gay men was like, the dude's gay. Thank you. Like we ain't even gonna sit up here.
I don't believe in bisexual men.
Me either. I
think
that's kind of like being a little bit pregnant.
No, we gotta ask this brother this. You're saying that you don't believe in bisexual men.
Yeah.
Are you
she whispered like me.
I'm sorry because I usually don't.
They gotta hear your questions.
I'm sorry, y'all. Wait a minute. Are you saying that you don't believe in bisexual women?
No, I think those are separate. So you can.
Oh
no. Let me tell you why. Oh, first off, let me please say this. No.
Listen.
Let me please say this. I am a firm believer in double standards.
Oh, well, okay.
So let me stand on that. I'm a firm believer in double standards for the same reason why if I'm at home with a woman and there's a glass breaking downstairs, I'm not sending her to go see what it was. That's a double standard.
That's not a double standard.
Yeah,
you agree to go.
No. We're not debating. We're not debating on who's going between the two of us.
But say if you couldn't get up that time, you was bedridden. Would you not want me to go in your place?
I would still try to go. If I think that somebody's breaking in the house, I'm not sending a woman downstairs to see what's going on.
I'm debating you, but I do think that's a great trait.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why I say I believe in double standards.
But I don't think that's a double standard.
It is, because in any circumstance, I'm not sending her. If I got to put her behind me, barricade the door, and I got the pistol aimed at the door for whoever walk in here gonna get it. If I can't get up, I'm not sending her downstairs. So I'm saying I believe in double standards.
But that's why. Then I think. So tell me why you think about this, and then maybe we're okay with that.
So
maybe we're okay with what?
So my belief system.
Not
linked to anything else. There's nothing that you
that's
said.
All good,
ain't no scripture to quote. Ain't no Psalms or Proverbs. This is just my thought process.
Okay.
I just think that there is something different about women that y'all can move differently than men.
I don't disagree with that.
So, if there was a situation to where if a woman told me that she kissed another woman, no part of my brain does that necessarily wave a flag. If a man told me he kissed another man, it's the 4th of July. Every bell, whistle, flag, and flare is going up in the sky. That's the double standard I have in my brain, which I'm okay with. No, but I'm saying, but that's mine.
I wanted to know your thought process because a lot of people have that double standard.
Yeah, I don't think there's a double standard. I think your role is clearly defined on why you felt that way.
Yeah, so
whoever created the double standard, that was to make us feel confused about our position. I don't think that's a double standard.
A societal double standard.
Yeah,
right.
So the way that I don't view men and women's behavior as the same. I don't think that it's one for one. For the same reason, if I walk on the street, it's why I'm close to the traffic. If we're walking and a dog jump out, I put her behind me. If there's a situation and it looks like it could be sketchy, I don't have to know the woman to make my presence known in case something looked like it might about to go sideways. Or her safety might be in jeopardy. These are things I wouldn't do for a man. If me and a man are walking and a dog jump out, I'm going to tell him, see you when I see you, and we both. You know what I'm saying?
I disagree.
You know what I'm saying? So I have double standards that way in how I believe that how I interact with both genders. That's why I say I'm okay with double standards.
I'm too.
Yeah.
I'm too. Yeah. So here's my next question for you then, since you put it like that. Do you think in the movement of Black people trying to get to wherever we're trying to go, do you think it's possible for the straight cultured, non-cultured Black people or Africans in America, are we able to work with the LGBTQ and the Black feminists and LGBTQ and the Black feminists?
So I think that
possible for us to work together.
Can we work with members of those groups?
Yeah,
I would say yes.
Okay.
Can we work with those groups as entities? There would have to be a real discussion on what the agenda is at hand and what it is we're going forward with. Because you could take somebody who's a feminist or lesbian, gay, trans, whatever, and they identify with being Black first, So they're saying, I may be of this group, but I'm of this group first. So let's go ahead and get some work done. But if I got my jersey on for this team over here, we may have an agenda that we have to stick to. You know what I'm saying? Like as an entity, because the LGBTQ community is gaining a lot of ground.
Because it's white men. That's why it ain't the black ones.
But what I'm saying is they've got a formula that they're sticking to.
But so part of it is backed by white supremacy.
No, I'm not disagreeing. So I'm saying, so if we're to align with that in a particular thing, it has to be exactly clear, what are y'all in it for? Because like we have to have that real world discussion, because y'all already have a path that you're on, which means linking up with us in some way, shape, or form is to fit your agenda as well. You're not just doing it on the strength. So we need to make sure that we don't get to a point to where these two lanes then become one and you just trying to cut us off because we now help you get to where you're going.
That's exactly what's happening.
But I'm saying, but there are members of those groups. There are individuals within those groups. I think that like I said, may just be, yeah, I may be out here at the feminist rally. I may be doing this for political stuff when it comes to being a feminism, but I'm about my black people first. So I think you can get members of those groups. But when it comes to an entity, you have to have a very clear-cut plan about what it is that we're here and what are we doing.
I think we have not had that conversation enough because black folks try to be so politically correct and we are still everybody's floor. I love when May said, y'all trying to think we're all at the back of the bus, but other races are gaining seats and we're still in the back of the bus. So with that being said, do you think for Dr. King, does he represent you?
What do you mean?
When you're in the,
you tell me where in the timeline.
I'm talking about right now as a black leader.
His timeline.
Okay, that's not in your timeline.
No,
right, we weren't even alive when
no. Because it's the
no. I'm talking about Dr. Whole as a man. You can't psych people up. No. Dr. King, so we know when people in the real world hear Dr. King, they think an integrationist, someone who loves white people, he works for all people. Our struggles don't even come on the table. They think it's about integration.
Till the end.
Yeah, to the end. They think that not even with him changing. But nobody knows that. That's like you telling me that I have peanut butter.
I do. That's why I'm asking.
No. But I'm asking if that's true then. Does he represent you? That was my question.
Okay, so that's why I was clarifying. If we were talking about, I have a dream, Martin.
No, it's up to you.
Well, no,
you have to clear that up.
Well, I'm talking to folks because some folks don't know the difference.
Right.
That's what I'm just prefacing.
Are you talking about the fear? I fear that I'm leaving.
I've integrated my people to a burning building. We need to watch Washington and get our check. That Martin. So I align more with that Martin. Don't let nobody take your manhood. That they've taken your just language and talk what all things negative or black to try to demean and demoralize and dehumanize you. Don't let them do it. Be proud of who you are.
What speeches were that he did? Because I agree with you. I know those parts of him.
But those are his speeches.
I agree. But which speeches are those? So people can go and listen to it in its entirety. Because people will drop like what's called a sound bite. But people don't listen to the whole thing.
Okay, so if
Dr. King has been used to put us to sleep.
Yes. So
people be like, oh, if we get these niggas Dr. King brunch, they'll all go there and we'll be over here, the other groups we talked about, robbing you blind of your check because now I'm going to take your check.
Yeah, so Martin towards the end was not the Martin that we keep getting promoted, which is why some people don't know that. And I get for the reason why they propagate I have a dream Martin as opposed to the last 18 months of his life. Where
real talk.
No, he met with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He sat there. He had a completely different shift of his focus. So there's a couple speeches. If you go to YouTube, if you type in MLK, and if you're like
the Martin you didn't know or something
like that. But if you look, you can type in the Martin you didn't know. If you're typing don't let them take your manhood was one of the tags. We're going to go get our check. Probably one of the captions. He gave a bunch of speeches that were not like the Martin that you heard since the second grade. So when you ask, does Martin represent me? The ideals of some of that stuff he was talking about, and then being real about the premise that I have a dream speech wasn't for black people. That I have a dream that we can be judged by the content of our character, not the color of our skin, that all people could be together. That wasn't about black people accepting other people and not seeing them by the content, by the color of their skin. That dream was white people not judging black people by the color of our skin. So when you talk about what the reality of what Martin was in his totality, a lot of what he says I agree with. But if you're talking about who resonates with me more, Martin Moore, his last 18 months, 2 years of his life, than what's been propagated since I was in elementary school. So yes, I agree with parts of Martin to answer your question.
No, that was great. No. And I'm glad you broke it down. So, for instance, I just threw that out there.
Yeah.
But it is up to you to say what parts
that's
you
what
agree
I was
with and to break it down. Because I do know that Black people, you can talk all that you want. I know the little clips and everything that he talks about. Am I proud of being Black? Yes, I am. I've seen those speeches.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I also think, it's not to diss Elijah Muhammad, but I think that if you're Black in America, at some point you will get to that point.
Yeah.
You will be like, these people have done all kinds of stuff to me.
Yeah.
At some point, it's like being in an abusive relationship. I am bruised up. Like, I thought I was getting like a nice house, but I may not live to enjoy it. So I may need to get the hell out of here. You know what I'm saying? So I know that people do that with Dr. King. Anything from the civil rights movement, they tend to act like, look, we let you Negroes live here. Y'all don't really want that check. You want to just be able to live in the same neighborhood with me. Yeah. Kind of crap. That's like somebody raping you and be like, well, I'm going to go ahead and let you sleep on the floor. Like, I'm sorry I raped you. You know, it's like, what? No, I'm going to read something. I'm going to read.
Then you bring it up again, they're like, that's a long time ago. Why you bring it up all
how do you respond to when people say that was so long ago?
Well, so I think the position that I was born in 1977. So from what I saw in my lifetime, my father was born in 1950 in Alabama. My grandparents were born in the 20s in Alabama. So my grandfather, he passed some years back. He was born in like 23 in Eufaula, Alabama. And what he saw during the course of his lifetime, how the America changed. Like, one thing that I always give props to Obama for is nothing that he did is in his office. But I was sitting in the living room with my grandfather, my uncle, and my cousin when Obama was sworn in as president. I watched my grandfather, an insanely proud man with a tear in his eye, because he never thought he'd see the day in his life that he would see a Black person elected to president. If nothing else, that's what Obama did for me. You said, what did Obama do for Black people? That moment right there that I saw my grandfather's eye, that's what Barack Obama did for me. But when you talk about how long ago it was, the stories of my grandfather's lifetime. And so when people talk about how that was a long time ago, okay, my grandfather, his grandfather was a slave. So when you think about, well, man, that was so long, do you know who your grandfather is? Yeah, so did my grandfather. And his grandfather had been a slave in his lifetime. Wasn't that long ago. Right. Slavery ain't but two 70-year-old people back to back.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly.
That's it. I mean, that's it.
Like, sharecropping is only.
But I'm saying
another form. But that's another form. They just rewrote the laws like they did in South Africa. They gave up nothing.
That's what I'm saying. So when you start talking, so when people talk about how long ago, that's like, you know, 70-year-old person, put two 70-year-old lifetimes back to back. That's it. You know, that's so it wasn't that long ago. Like I said, my father went to high school. Integration happened from freshman year to senior year. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
it wasn't easy. Not like people say,
you know what I'm saying?
Like, gotta let the Negroes in. They had to fight.
They came to California in the 50s.
Think about Woolworth, how they was. Oh, I got chills.
Yeah, but so I mean, historically, while all that stuff was going on, that was when my father was in high school. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't that long ago. Yeah. So I don't have this detached viewpoint of that. So when people try to tell me, oh man, that was so long ago. Really? I remember being called a nigga in '89. So it wasn't like it was like it you know, that long ago. And it was just so it wasn't long. And it still touches. And it still resonates. And it still affects. And we're not even talking about the transgenerational scarring or the stuff that's been encoded through the pain and trauma. We're talking about just firsthand baton passing generationally. If you don't think that the atrocities that happened to your parents' lifetime affected their parenting and the type of person you are, you're crazy. Especially if it was worse for their parent and worse for their parent. You know what I mean? Like, it you know, it wasn't that long ago. And I think that we are so comfortable now, because we talked about before, poverty for us is still J's and we could afford Henny and Blunt money. And he ain't got no job and everybody's broke.
That's being enriched.
I'm saying? Like struggle is not struggle. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you can be comfortably poor in America.
Yes, you can. And get some little bit of assistance from the government. In some countries, you don't work, you don't eat.
Yeah, but you could be now. Granted, there are some people who are really, really struggling out here. I don't make light of their situation, but there are a lot of comfortably broke people in this here in the United States. So
that's true.
There are a lot of comfortably broke individuals out here in these 50 states. So, you know.
No, so that's just integration, good or bad.
The way it was done was bad.
Oh, you want to break that down?
Yeah, you got to help me out.
So integration and its entity of an ability. So let's go back a little bit too. So what a major push was back then wasn't necessarily integration, it was desegregation. And a lot of people don't recognize the difference. So the desegregation push was to not make it criminal or against the law to be in certain places. So not necessarily, I don't need to be able to go into your store. I just need you not to arrest me for walking past it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so when you talk about integration, if you want to remove the parameters of you're not allowed here, fine. But we shouldn't have just jumped ship on what we had to be on board with this. So the way that it was practiced, I think ultimately, however it was done, we would have integrated anyway. But I think that the way we should have went about it was different. That we should have kept what we had, what we owned, and what we ran. And then just in some cases, there would be blending where it made economic sense. You know what I mean? Like, but for the stuff that the institutions that we had already, post offices and bus lines and schools, stuff independently sporadically throughout the country. If we'd have kept with that mindset, of course, if you got an airline, it's going to make sense that you integrate because the technology may advance more in one than the other. You ain't gonna be on no biplane while the brand new 747s. You know what I mean? Like some of the stuff is gonna make sense to where you come together, and some of the stuff would have occurred by osmosis as you start to develop and work out. But I think the idea that we just jumped ship on everything we had to join what we thought was the quote unquote winning team, I think that's where we ran into trouble and why integration was bad.
So what is integration? I don't understand that.
See?
What is integration? The
whole you're now. I ain't gonna say welcome, but you allowed to come up in here is the basis.
Oh.
Now, if it was in business, it would be.
Wait a minute. No, because integration definition is usually when you integrate people and you're supposed to be able to go where it's not equality.
No. No.
So that, but integration usually means like now I can live next door to you, and now I can, even though they had redlining and.
Yeah, but the difference is so since words matter, the actual process that happened was not integration; it was acquisition.
Okay. Okay. And what is that?
So acquisition is when you acquire something.
Right.
So it wasn't that the white infrastructure integrated us into their system; they acquired what we had accumulated. And by sheer virtue allowed us to stay there. So if you're in, that's yours. And the other entity has 2 or 3. Their integration was all these 4 buildings, but we own all 4 of them. Like to have, they then began to acquire all the restaurants that we had. If either they acquired them or we let them go and ultimately close down. Okay. All the institutions that we started to build, either they acquired them or they went out of business. So that was more of an acquisition move. If it was in business, it would have been more of a semi-hostile takeover. Okay. So it wasn't integration by way of we're all in this together. It's no, I kind of like what you're doing over there. Let me go get some of that. I got that. You know what I'm saying? Like it was more that, and we were willing to either sell. In some cases, we were strong-armed out. And in other cases, we just abandoned what we built because we thought it was better across the street. Okay. And in that process, what we had built and created was gone.
Do you think we're still segregated in 2018? Absolutely.
Depending on what you're talking about.
What do you think I'm talking about?
So if you're talking about
how we live, where we live.
We have Chinatown, and all the owners of that area are Asian people. So even though we're welcome to go in the store because we're so-called integrated, but you don't really want to shop in there.
So in the original sense of segregation in the 40s, 50s, 60s?
Segregation by definition.
No, but I'm saying in the original way that it was practiced, no. Is there still the separation and the clear cut, there's a difference between us? Yes. So it's, because like I said, back then segregation was attached to law. So it wasn't like we just don't want you in here. It's we going to call the cops, they're going to drag you out the street and take you to jail. That difference is not, it's not the same segregation. Mm-hmm. But you can go through now, you can be like, go through Chinatown, the police ain't coming to get you. Now the neighborhood may tell you they don't want you there.
And they will follow you through the store.
You know what I'm saying? But it's like
sometimes like the black woman, the Latino man, the Latino man beat up in that pizza bar, which they shut his ass down, which they should have. You don't jump on people and do that.
Yeah, I'm saying
even though we're all of color.
I would say it's probably a different form of. So yes, but a different form and a different form.
You know what was sad to me? That girl had. I'm not saying that she.
It was sad was the brother that was recording it.
But also, why didn't you have to?
That's the part that irritates me.
That was sad, but you know what kind of irritated me, and I know y'all gonna clown me. Why did she have those eyelashes? I'm not saying she deserved to be.
I don't remember.
No, I didn't even talk about that one. I'm talking about the pizza parlor dude.
Yeah.
He beat this shit, and the brothers record like, wow.
So for me,
that's when it's like, just go ahead and take him out.
Any of those videos where I see some man manhandling a woman, and first off, just for my sake, I don't care what color she is first.
I agree.
If I see some dude brutally assaulting a woman and a man standing there videotaping it, I already have issue with dude. You know what I'm saying? So I don't give the pass because when she was an Asian woman or she was a Mexican woman, a white woman, whatever, I'm just not cool with dudes beating up women. That's just my thing. If I see a black woman being abused and a black man recording, I feel an extra special kind of way about you. You know what I'm saying? But I don't give a pass across the board, but I do have a reserve a certain degree of feeling.
It's like a lot of the fights you see with girls on YouTube is more than likely a young boy that's recorded.
Yeah.
It's like, are you kidding me?
Because it's cute to them.
But where did they learn that at?
Their parents? Because it's cute to their mama.
I would be embarrassed even being something like that.
Okay,
no, I'm serious. It's kind of like, wow, that's kind of
talking today. Let's keep it 100.
That's so true, bro.
When your 3-year-old is cursing out his sister, that's cute. When your 4-year-old son is grinding up on the booty of some grown woman, that's cute. When you hitting the hit of the blunt and blowing it in the baby's face, that's cute. Yes, when he's walking around carrying a bottle like he's drinking, that's cute. That's cute till he's 12 beating your ass, but he's cute till she's 13 and pregnant. But all this stuff, why they think this stuff is cute, is because I watch so many timelines and stuff flooded with all kind of people who think disrespectful 6-year-olds is funny.
That's
you know what I mean? Like little girls dancing and grinding like a Luke video at 5 years old is cute.
That's crazy.
First off, it ain't cute that you're exposing her like that. First, you put it on the internet where all these pedophiles are at watching these little videos. Right. Second, there's males in the room. What kind of grown-ass man is watching a 5-year-old twerking a damn, like, in a onesie? Like, I got so many questions about these whole scenarios. You think it's cute that your 6-year-old son is cursing people out, you know, blowing blunt smoke in his face, like I said, till he come home putting hands on you.
Right.
Like, all that stuff, you know, because we think it's cute, and this is a generation of these kids thinking it's cute. Now, Screaming World Star let you know when stuff's about to pop. Like, people get ready to start laughing. Meanwhile, someone's about to get sucker punched. Like, it's just, you know.
What is it that we can do? Obviously, I know that we need to. How can we combat love and hip hop?
What do you mean?
Like, for example, we get where we are in the society as far as, I know we talk about the millennials, but it ain't just the millennials, because it's the millennials doing a lot of good and powerful things. Okay. But how can we raise the consciousness level of us so that we can get to where we need to be? But I'm talking about as a whole, as opposed to not just a few of us.
Well, let's put this into proper perspective. All them loving hip hop people are mine.
Loving hip hop.
They are our age.
These are not 20-year-olds. All these Real Housewives who love Ray J doing it for Flavor Flav because they like basketball in Atlanta. All these people are grown-ass men and women.
That's real talk.
We're not talking about 19, 20, 21-year-olds. We're talking about 35, 36, 37, 42, 43, 40. These are grown-ass men and women. 50. So we could have put all this stuff off on kids.
No,
I'm not saying you. I'm saying society-wise, we try to say it's the kids out here that's crazy and out of control. Nah, they ratchet because they mama ratchet. They out of pocket because they mom out of pocket.
How do you bring up the conscious level of a person that's the same age as you?
Well, because first off, is that I remember. Let me preface that by saying I remember 2000. I remember 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004. I remember what the clubs looked like. I remember how folks was acting. I remember watching folks hook up with complete strangers. These are they babies who are out here right now. We talk about what the crack epidemic did to that next wave of babies that came out. This is land of the ratchet era. This is what folks decided to be free. This is the era of, this is the era of you can't tell me nothing. That's real. This is the result of where we are.
You want some help.
You can't tell me nothing. So all these 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, I saw y'all in the streets. Like, this is what, back to the similar point. Sometimes your soulmate is ugly. This is what your life is supposed to look like. Like, the reason why your situation is what it is, because it's supposed to be. So there needs to be not how do we
Wait a minute. Did you just say sometimes your soulmate?
Yeah, he talked about that earlier.
That's the principle.
I don't watch it earlier.
I was working.
But here's the thing. I do think you bring up some great points that the love and hip hop people are old ass people.
Yeah.
Because you still have people who still wear they when you see a grown man, to me, a grown man is somebody that's over 40. For me. Okay. It's just me. Still wearing the saggy pants and like looking like the kids, tight jeans and all that. It's like, yeah, you really lost your way. Yeah. But I also think this is a part of the growing process for young people. And I hate to say it, usually you have to go through something in order for you to get it. I can tell you something 100 times. I always tell young people, don't ever tell me nobody tried to help you. Like, I will refuse to believe that. Yeah. Just say you weren't ready. Yeah. People give you advice all day long. Sometimes you ain't on that frequency right now. Right now, you down here in this frequency. Yeah. Somebody tell you something up here, you ain't trying to hear. But usually when you get older, you tend to remember that person like, somebody didn't tell me that before. You kind of beat yourself up like, I should have listened. But that wasn't your journey at the time. You had to go through the fire. Like, you need to get pulled over by that police officer. I mean, like, you know, like one time on the road trip, our boys got detained in Canada. Coming back in. Going in, the Canadians were beautiful. We had a van load full of girls, van load full of boys. These are kids who come from communities, even though they think it's the ghetto is really nice. They get the same $1 million view that the other people get who live on the hill. Yeah. You know, it's next San Francisco. So you can tell them nothing about racial profiling. It ain't real. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We were coming back in on the American side. Now, this is the Americans we went through no problem with girls. Hold your passport up, smile, and only get your answer. I coach my girls. Just yes, and just,
answer the question you asked.
That's it.
That's it.
No attitudes, don't suck no teeth. This is the border patrol. I don't want no mess. We went through like that. Got to the boys. They kind of was a little disheveled because, you know, we kind of do. And immediately they pulled them over. So we like, I said, we got to wait for them. So we pulled forward. You can wait. They took all those boys out the van, questioned all the boys. 2 people had Muhammad as a last name and Abdul or Shabazz as a name. Yeah. And so it was like, you know, Jay Brown was cussing these damn people. I was like, Lord, we taped it. You know, we with them. Then they wanted the hood. When we got into Buffalo, we had to pull over because the van started smoking. They had disconnected some wires under the van. And so when we went to go sit down and eat, we went to feed the kids, the boys were on hush. And I said, you know, that was, you know, me and Jay Brown on our game. I said, but our kids need to experience some of this stuff. You can't be the recipient of people's hard work and feel like you ain't got to put in no work. I look at the Queen of England. Harry and William don't get to be king because they think it's about being fabulous and all that. They probably acted a fool, but they both served in the royal military. They did their time in Africa, volunteer. They're not going to inherit the kingdom without knowing all the stuff we stole and the people you got to keep this shit from. Yeah. But with our kids, we act like, well, my kid, I know kids who got the expensive ass board and can't read. And they in the projects. How the hell do you buy that expensive ass board on lithium or whatever it's called, and then you can't read? But the board cost $500 when they first came out. So I'm saying the thing with our children, it comes back to the generation before who raised them. My mother, we earned everything. My nieces never, I'm the same way with them. So this is what I need you to do for me. No. I will not give them the money. It's like, no, you have to work for that. Now, mind you, we did have my brother one time bought his son 2 cars and he crashed them both and was like, you know, my brother said, I was like, you got to let this fool catch the bus. Yeah. Because you wanted a car when you were 16 and we were too poor to buy your car. You know, so he's like, lesson learned. So his son now is much better. But you can't just hand it off to him without a sacrifice. Yeah. Everything is a sacrifice. These people are ruling the world because they're willing to go in. I love movies like 300. I love the Game of Thrones. Because to me, that's all about fighting for what you believe in. Yeah. We think we're going to get free without fighting. Not going to happen. But mentally, the biggest fight is here. Once you get this down, you know when it's time for you to go off on the person who's treating you not right. Because if you're going to die anyway, at least take some with you. Yeah. Don't just be hands up. Who comes up with shit like that? Who comes up with that? Like, dude, they're going to shoot you anyway. The dude said, we got 50 videos of people getting shot down and killed. So what more do you? Couldn't be no other group because every other group has fought this beast. We have it on record enough. That's what I'm saying. That's why I love Haiti. Haiti fought Napoleon, which changed the whole dynamics of French power, which is how they had the Louisiana Purchase. Yeah. I learned that firsthand when I went to Haiti and learned about Dessalines. So if you don't know about Dessalines, then you can't talk no freedom fighting to me. I'm tired of long ass speeches. When we gonna get this in? Get the work in. White man respect their adversaries that's gonna fight them. Otherwise, he just bully you around. He's like, we ain't even got. We'll come home and test on the Negroes, and then we go in the world and apply it to other people. We're like crash test dummies for people. Like, these niggas still here. What we gonna try next? What next poison we got?
Knock them out.
We're resilient. We're gonna be here. But my thing is, I would like to think we will. But I would like to see us have something more to give young people than just pimps and hoes. I said we're always gravitating, not all of us, but to that lowest kind of don't do no work stuff. Like that's irritating. It's like, y'all come on.
The problem is that it pays.
Is what?
It pays.
Yeah, it pays you for a minute. You know how many people sitting in prison because they got paid?
No. I'm talking about the narrative and the dysfunction and the love and hip hop folks and all that. To these kids' eyes, the images that they see, these people are getting paid. Now they don't know how low them reality checks are, and they don't know how little these rappers are actually making, and they don't know how little. You know what I'm saying? Like that the street life is the petty hustle. It's the short game. Like they don't get that. They just see what's in front of them. So I think part of what it has to be is that some of us who are okay have to shift out of that mindset of, well, I'm just going to take care of me and mine.
I agree.
Because
some of us need to do that, and some of us need to look for everybody else. Look here, the queen can go all around the planet, but she makes sure her family is solid. Because ain't nothing like me. I met a whole bunch of people who get their lives to the movement. Their kids are crazy as hell.
Oh, yeah. I'm not talking about sacrificing your home for somebody else. But the same reason why, like, okay, so we talk about men getting married. Like, most of the times you hear about men's viewpoint on marriage are from unhappily married people.
You ain't never lied.
Because the men who are happily married are home happily with their wives.
That's real talk.
So in order to inspire more men to value it, you need to hear from more happily married men.
I agree.
To offset, the ones who was half a second away from divorce. So the same thing for the people who are out there who are doing stuff more positively and who are trying to build, they need to be more vocal in some respects and not just be like, I'm taking care of me and mine and they'll figure that out over there. Just some more models of possibility.
I agree, brother. I'm right there with you. I mean, I think there's a time to be peaceful and there's a time to go to war. I do think we're at warfare right now. I hope I'm not the only one saying that, but there's a war. War don't always mean I'm going to come up and shoot you in the chest. But warfare can be like, I'm going to poison your water, I'm going to poison your food, I'm going to give your kids mental stuff to make them feel inferior so they're learning about how great I am and how effed up you are. Like there's all kinds. You go home, you got a parent who love their black self, call you a bunch of MFers and nappy-headed this and this. I mean, the warfare is all around us, which is why I don't have a problem saying, no, I can't hang out with you. I have friends like, get your stuff right. Don't come to me with that. I don't have to smoke weed to be alive. So smoke that before you get to me, and then we may hang out. But the minute you get stupid, I'm going to be out. Because I'm not lowering myself so you can feel some kind of way. Bring your game up. I ain't dummying down for you. I didn't do that in high school. I didn't have many friends, but I was cool with that. No, that worked for me. It did. I mean, one of my best friends, I was telling to the kids yesterday, I had a friend who ended up going to prison for 11 years because she stabbed her husband like 20-something times. I had seen her the day before. Well, she was always wanting the easy way out. She did a whole bunch of stuff. And then it was like, then she had she had 3 kids. I know she had 2, but she would either have 3. But it's like all of these other dynamics. You know what I'm saying? And we don't like to talk about that. So it's like at the very end, I always think, look back at your friends. Who's still standing now? When most popular girls in school end up having a whole bunch of kids, didn't have much self-esteem or self-worth, really. Because beauty's only skin deep.
Oh, there's a whole lot of sad cases of folks who peaked at 17.
You said like what?
There's a whole lot of sad cases of people who peaked at 17.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I do believe we got to get in there and rescue our people.
You had your best years. Junior year was it. Now you're 47.
And I do think we have a lot of brilliant kids who want to hear that. They may, even if they I have so many young ladies now who are young adults, like 30, it's like, yo, you really used to talk some real stuff. Like, you really shared some real stuff with us. So sometimes I'll be like, look, y'all, I ain't coming today. I ain't in the mood. Like, I would come in and say that. I was going, then I would tell them, it would be like, I need y'all to bring your game up. Like, I need you to, because I'm not your average teacher. I don't come in here to just be babysitting you. And then we would have real conversations. I would be very honest with them. And it's like, thank you for that. Or they'd be like, well, how did my mom get on drugs? That's the time period I find myself talking about more than any other time period with kids. It's the crack era. What happened to my mom and my grandma?
We really need to break that.
But we don't talk about that. We act like, again, you talk about that self-reflection. Nobody wants to talk about why they really got on crack. I've had a chance to interview people who was in the nation in the first resurrection. And they talked about how when Elijah Muhammad died, they really thought this man was God on the level that you think God never dies. And some of them, and then the whole change happened with Wallace, and then they all fell completely off the radar. And some stumbled on that for like 20 years or so. But nobody talks about that period because that's important to our development. That was warfare straight out, flat out.
Yeah.
Like, you know, but we never want to talk about that. Why do we have generations of people who are gone? Or if they're back, it's like, you know, where was you? Like, why my mama got these issues with my grandmama?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, why she ain't like, I was like, my mom is your age. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not your mama. Like, I was like, don't compare me to your mama. But I know what they're saying. Like, well, why she can't get it together? Why is she not being what her mother is? Because she really missed that part. Because she got her own issues.
Yeah.
And she never got them dealt with.
And a lot of times, like I said, we were talking about earlier about being able to stand there and say that this is what's going on with me without using that as a pass for why I am the way that I am.
I agree.
Because when you tell somebody, I went through this, I went through that, these are some of the mistakes I made, this is the stuff that I'm dealing with, this in no way, shape, or form gives me a pass from being a crappy parent to you.
I agree.
This is just me acknowledging some of the stuff that I have to deal with and I have to work with, and this is where I am. A, that should not be a conversation with your 8-year-old.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
I wholeheartedly agree.
And B, you shouldn't be looking for it as a path out with in your confession. But I think that I got to be older. I was lucky enough when my grandparents were still alive that I got to sit and talk with both of them individually. And I asked them questions that I had never heard from my family. I was like, how did y'all even meet? Because like the way that they were, they fought. Like they were, my grandparents, from the time when I showed up, I'm like, these are two people don't need to be together. Like from the time when I got here, like when I first started knowledge, I was like,
did they have the separate bedrooms?
Yeah, separate bedrooms, the whole nine. I was like, why? I figured after a while they got older, they had a bunch of kids. I figured why they stayed together. But you know what I'm saying? But I was like, I sat and talked to both of them individually. Like, how did this even work? How did y'all even come together? And they both told me stories about what it was like when they were younger and all that. And then when they got to California and all the problems that they had and all the stuff that they were trying to work at. And one's recollection is not the same as the other. So for when one thought that it could still be saved, the other one was like they had already checked out. But had this one caught the light a little bit sooner, maybe it could have been different. And how that trickled down in the type of parenting, and then the kids that aligned with which particular parent, how that affected that degree of parenting. Then some resentments amongst those kids because how they felt about their siblings, how that trickled down into their cousins, their nieces, and nephews. I took the time, like I talk about understanding and fascinating, I took the time to actually ask my family where they came from. Because I lived with my parents, and my parents never told me anything about their childhoods in those respects. Never told me anything about them. I don't think they ever spoke to their parents about what type of people they were outside of being their parents. So I think that like that's why I eliminate the title. Like I don't, okay, it's great that your grandma, but tell me about you. You was something, you was this before you were that. You know, what were you before this? What were you after that? You quit having kids. You lived 40 years after the last time you gave birth. Like, what's going on? like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what's going on?
Culturally, usually who you have children with, who you marry, that there wasn't a lot of choices in divorcing.
Yeah, like if she was going to split it with a man,
separated forever.
Yeah.
They never divorced the person. They were just separated. They're like they went down what the separation paper. It was like, well, your daddy ain't together right now. But
well, saying to get together and never get married.
Huh?
They've been together, the same the other way. They've been together 40 years with 10 kids and 15 grandkids, and ain't nobody ever jumped no broom. That's why we say stuff to the marriage statistic when people talk about the high percentage of black women that aren't married. I said, yeah, but we do something culturally, but we could be together forever and just never get married. So that number is actually, drops down substantially, because there's a lot of us been together, like I said, 30 years, 3 kids, this, that, whatever. They got grandkids. Man, let's go on and do this. Got one of their kids is preaching in the church. All of a sudden, they're like, "Man, let's just come on, Pops, go on and do this. Let's go on and do this."
I know when I found my great grandmother, and on the census in 1860, right out of slavery. That's the first time she appeared on the census with my great grandmother. Then a couple of years later, I found. I mean, in that time span, I found out where her and my great grandfather got married.
Yeah.
So we know marriage was important to black folks.
Yeah,
even if we didn't, like right out of slavery, they went and got married. To me, that meant something to me.
She was waiting to get married.
Huh? Yeah, I mean, like before the law, we know
right.
they probably jumped the room and do whatever.
Right.
But there's something about the law because that's a legal document that you're like. I'm her great granddaughter, and I found that and was like, wow, like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they actually got married.
And to me, I'm one of the people that believes that marriage is more than a piece of paper.
It is, but it's nice to have the file.
But I'm saying, so for the paperwork side again.
I get that. I get that.
So but to me personally. Because to me, I think that kind of whichever walk you take, when you get married, this is the promise you make, recognized by the country you live in, the government, in front of your friends, family, and whoever you pray to, that this is who you're signing up for. To me, that actual ceremony means something.
Yeah.
So I think there's value in it. I know some people don't.
No,
I know
we are so far out. Okay, so y'all ready to get off? I mean,
I'm good, but I was thinking about it. I was like,
look, it's 4:34.
From 1 hour,
right. So we have a lot to talk about. However, this is what I personally believe. I believe that we have to have these conversations honestly. I'm serious. I mean, I think that's why I do this. I think it's important to have conversations because we are probably the group that have more spokespersons who don't do anything for us. Yeah. In other communities, you just can't be, they'll slam you down. Like they have people come visit. So we don't have that. People get to say black folks need this. And then they give me the money and I make sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we got a whole bunch of poverty. Yes. Yeah. So it's like, but I think when people hear like what we really think, it's like, that's why I would say, well, no, that's kind of not what happened where I'm from. Because we're not a monolith. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you were talking about living in your community over there. I ain't gonna lie, when I was young, I don't think I ever went to Rancho Cordova or Rosemont area, right? Lincoln Village.
Lincoln. Now there's not so much of a distance, but I'm just saying. I just know that anybody from Lincoln Village knows we have a clear-cut, definitive line between Rosemont and Lincoln Village.
Okay, see, I don't know. When you said Albert Einstein, I really thought
same general area now, but back then there was a clear.
You know what I'm saying? But even people from the South area didn't go over there. I think the farthest I went is Oak Park and William Land. My mom worked in William Land Park, so that's the farthest I've gone. Like I never really went, even though I'm from Florida, I've been all over the East Coast, but I just never went over that way. Yeah. But I also didn't go past Valley High. I'd never been in Elk Grove until I was an adult, and I live in Elk Grove. So I'm just saying, it's like with us, we don't know what's happening on the other side. I'm like, well, black people need this. It's like, yeah, but see, you live
15 miles away, living in a different existence.
Right. Like, you know, like, hey, we already got our stuff together. We just need to build X, Y, and Z. Y'all got to first find each other over here. So I think we never make room to know, well, what is really your reality as a black person? Yeah. You know what I mean? We don't do that. We keep thinking we have Al Sharpton, no disrespect to Al, I do listen to you sometimes, but he'll be talking about Dr. King having a dream, all inclusive with people. And then, you know, but anything around accountability with self, he stays the hell away from that. Yeah. But he'll big up the gay people, he'll big up immigration, and black people dying all around him. And he's supposed to be a man of God, representing black people, and he won't even address our struggle. No, that's a problem.
The checks will stop.
Well, they're goddamn right. But I mean, but I'm just saying, but at some point, people have to call him to the carpet. Like at some point, say, look, Al, you're going to have to, and that, see, in the 60s, people did stuff like that. In the 60s, people went to folks' houses and knocked on their door and was like, look here.
Yeah, but once we hit
but that
you
crack
can't tell me nothing.
Yeah. Well, no, that came after we eliminated some people for crack. Yeah.
Well,
that manhood piece turned very differently in terms of black men being protectors in their community. Yeah. When crack, that's why we cannot not look at crack era. Yeah. Because it took people out of here. Like, and not just out of here smoking crack. The sellers of crack, a lot of them went to jail for 25 and 30. What you can't tell me nothing. No, gee, I've been out here having to scramble because you locked up. You can't tell me nothing. So I feel like that part of being a protector, that we haven't seen that like that in a while. And then we forgot all about gangs. Gangs was but also gangs were even affected by crack.
They're more a byproduct. Of a lot of that stuff.
But I said we never had that part where we had accountability. Like if you showed up my community and did some stuff, you could get handled because so-and-so live here. Yeah. And he's not going to let you come into his community and just set up shop and I don't even know who you is. Yeah. You know, you don't get to check in with the OG and be like, my name is so-and-so, you know. You will never do that in other communities. I said on a gang task force meeting here, they were talking about, do you know who the most dangerous gangs are in Sacramento? Can y'all guess?
The Angels and the Hells Angels.
What you say?
The Hells Angels out there and the Asians.
The ones that it's hard for them to infiltrate the most. And they have protocol.
Oh yeah.
Are we saying like, oh yeah, but they have laws. You can't roll up in their community and do stuff. Not possible.
Yeah, well, I look at that whole infrastructure as gangs just a branch. because they work in conjunction with the businesses, with everything else. They're just a unit of the same team.
They're the military arm
of
having a nation. That's somebody's job.
They don't, because the fact is that they don't do stuff which messes with the bottom line. So all their crime doesn't affect the businesses. You're not going to mess with the churches there. You're not going to mess with the schools there. Like, they are just an extension of one big infrastructure.
Why don't we have that?
You want to keep it real?
Please. Keep it real. And we already 4-5 hours in. We get ready to end this. But, hold on. We end this. But tell me that, and then we out of here.
Part of why that doesn't happen is, A, the self-reflection, when we figure out all the things about ourselves that we don't like. B, we have a difficulty getting along with one another on most levels. Mm-hmm. So the idea of, first off, why should I listen to you? Is going to have to be, I'm going to have to accept on some level that you are either more knowledgeable or better at a particular thing than me. And depending upon how I feel about myself is if I'm able to do that. Mm. So if I can't do that, if me and you are peers, why am I supposed to be Pippen to your Jordan? Why am I supposed to just fall back for you? You know what I mean? And so, and especially if my situation ain't good and you can't better it. So if my money's funny and I'm supposed to fall back, which might cost me a little change for the quote unquote greater good, nah, son.
Nah, son.
So we get a lot of that. And folks, I'll get ready to finish. So one thing, the Pulp Fiction movie, if you remember that movie.
Yes.
There was an opening scene where the two people got ready to rob the diner.
Mm-hmm.
And the dude was talking to the girl about how, we used to take the wallets and all the whole setup. And he's giving the breakdown. There's the cooks in the kitchen. The manager just doesn't want you to start shooting the customers, whatever. A line he said about the waitress, which I've applied to too many things in life that I've seen, is that he said that waitress is not going to stand in the way of us robbing the register. No way she's going to take a bullet for the register. That is us in a lot of ways. We ain't going to take a bullet for the register.
I understand that.
We are not about to sacrifice our livelihood, our comfortability, our situation, our occupation, our status, or wherever we at for the greater good, for the cause. We ain't about to take a bullet for the register. So until you got more people we're about to take a bullet for the register. So until more people, some of us, we have a lot out there who are doing it. I hate for people to walk away with a takeaway thing that there's not a lot of people out there helping. There are countless numbers of people in cities all across this country who are involved in trying to community build. We just need to get a few more on board. That's all.
And get some people out there. Okay, so thank you all for hanging in with us 4 hours out of a 60-minute interview. Now, brother, we have to figure out how to somehow, I want to figure out how to do something with you. Okay. I don't care if it's on a monthly basis, and we definitely have a timekeeper or something. But we can hit some certain subject. Because even when you look at all the people we have in the so-called Black world or whatever, we never really get to hear about what people really think about them, why, and not the negative, like the positive stuff. I do listen to Dr. Boyce Watkins. There's some people I do listen to. Yeah. But we never get a chance to talk in community. Like, there's a Black men movement happening, Black men's convention happening in April in D.C. This person, Malik Zulu Shabazz, and they've been all over. Even now he went down to Columbia, which is where I'm going to be going soon. So met with Black people down there. So it's like, wow, we have this social media. We gotta start utilizing this, because how you fight love and hip hop, to me, honestly, is give people another alternative. Yeah. I don't watch that kind of stuff.
I don't watch it either.
I just don't. Now I ain't gonna lie, I do watch court TV sometimes because maternity court, but that's like a guilty pleasure. I don't really believe.
I don't watch it now because I cut my cable off, but I
haven't had cable since 1999.
You know what? I'm new
probably
to the
save
game
some money
with that.
Yeah, I've had cable since
I'm new to the game, but I'm not going to tell you. You know what drew me to love and hip hop, and I know that's not what we're talking about. But New York and Atlanta, I love people that hustle. I'm not even talking about their drama in their life, but I love how everybody had like a side hustle when they was really grinding.
But are you really take the bullet for the register? So this is the thing that you're talking about.
I don't think I'm gonna take the bullet for a register. I'm not there yet.
No, I agree, but I'm just saying, see, that's the part of it. I'm not gonna help their ratings. So there was a show called The City of Angels about Black doctors. This was like in the early 90s, Bill Fox. They said that the show did not make it because Black people did not want to see Black folks in that kind of role.
That's so.
But we got Empire. And black folks is, I've never watched Empire because I think some, not all, but I think some gay men are very destructive to black culture. I mean, that's just been my opinion on it. I'm not dissing people who are gay, a lot of gay friends, but I just feel like sometimes black gay men are like always supporting us in bullshit. You know, it's like a demeaning way. You think that that's being a woman, but I know you got to see some women take care of business. Why don't you ever show her? You don't even want to do like a balance, like show.
Honestly, but that's I know we got another story. Part of that is they're following us black women.
No, certain black women.
No. I'm saying.
Yeah, because I don't watch it.
No, but the homosexual people you talk about, the people in question who put on that material,
I agree.
The bulk of their following are black women.
And you know what the sad part, but that's why I'm saying, is it possible to have any kind of alliance with these people? You'll take our black dollars, but you won't help to improve our images. I don't care if you have some ratchet over here. Have something that's not ratchet over here. Yeah. You know, when I didn't like Waiting to Exhale because after I seen the Joy Luck Club, I was like, why do we have to always show them like this? With the Joy Luck Club, the women were explaining why they were dealing with certain stuff. Yeah. They were going for understanding. We always like, no man.
Even doing horrific things, they still was explaining why, and it wasn't trying to justify. Right. Well, let me just show you what happened.
Right. You know what I mean? And so even like I love watching Charmed. I ain't want to watch our version of some retarded stuff. Like they're witches, but they still have each other back. I mean, that's just Charmed. Like, you know, so
I had to think about what show you meant for a second. It took me a second. I remember now.
Yeah, but they were witches and they, you know.
Which brings us to the point, too. We need to build the sisterhood. The sisterhood
that's a whole nother
That's a whole nother topic. The sisterhood.
But I also think in the midst of building sisterhood, I would love to have some. You're probably one of the more balanced brothers that I've ever met. I'm not trying to be funny. You're very balanced. Even though you may do some stuff that I don't necessarily think it's chauvinistic. And now I'm thinking about, I think you're just doing what men do sometimes. You think? Yeah, honestly, I think if a man like sometimes, like for instance, the thing about having the woman kissing another woman, that's kind of chauvinistic, but it's okay because he's a man, so he's supposed to be like, I ain't got no problem with that shit. Well, but I would feel some kind of way. I could never be with the man with my sexual. I couldn't. But you know what I'm saying? But I'm not into women either, so I'm just saying it's just kind of like I can see that kind of like soft kind of, I can work with that and I can't work with this. I get that. And we call it a double standard, but I think that's through another person's lens. I feel like if I know a man, like I like when men are really into what I think is a man thing, I'm not trying to come in and run the FOI class. Do FOI. I gotta be over here working on the women. That's all I'm saying. And it's okay. I'm okay with those roles. I'm really okay. I love when Dr. Collar, who I love, said if I was too weak and Harriet Tubman was going for freedom, I'd be following her. But because I can lead, I'm going to lead. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that. So I feel like we don't always leave room for y'all to do what you do without us directing you, because that's what we've been doing since we've been here in terms of how we survive slavery.
The opposite. I don't teach girls.
Yeah, right. I'm with you. I'm the same way. I
do events. There's some things that are joined together, but I only.
Yeah, but your presence is needed, because what happens is that when you don't have the other opposite side, then women try to be that. And I don't even talking about just because I have to be man and woman. It's more like I'm gonna look like you. I'm gonna put on the drawers. I'm gonna do. And you know what? You can talk all that shit. If I'm busting your chest right now, you gonna cave in. As a woman, I don't care if you got a white beater on. I can still crush your cavity. Don't get it twisted.
The fact of the matter is, you may have a white beater or whatever. Words of great Corey Holcomb. You can put on all the stuff you want to have, but if you still have a period and have to get a pap smear, I don't want to hear that.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I just thought we gotta keep it. No, I'm serious, but I think that yes, but I really feel like we got to keep that conversation very solid, and I think we don't do that as a people. I really think we struggle with having real conversations because we live in a place where, you know, I personally think rich gay people, white gay people would do what straight white people will do. No. So I don't think they get a pass because they like sleeping with the same sex. I don't really give it. To me, it's always about race for me because that's my lens. I'm a black woman. So when I go somewhere, I'm like, oh, we just know you don't see color. Goddamn right you don't see color. You don't see other black people here. You know that immediately. So I just feel like that thing about men and women, that balance piece is true. There's a brother who's a scientist, can't remember his name, but he studied frogs. And he looks kind of strange. It's funny, he's like, nothing strange, but He kind of look like he's from the Prince era. He's like one earring and whatever. But he's like this, he's a really good size. He's a brother. So what he said, when you want to look at how humans are going to be affected by certain things, you study the smallest things in our society. In his case, he studied frogs. And he said he noticed when they put certain stuff into the water, like in his study, that he noticed that the male frogs started dying off, and then some of the female frogs started becoming male frogs.
Yeah, they'll switch over.
And I think, now these are frogs. So I feel like when you have the absence of black man and with that balance, of course you see a whole bunch of women who think being a man means to put on a white beater and dress like y'all and wear a bandana, whatever the hell. The same way gay men think that being a woman means being a bunch of makeup, put some high heels on and be like, girl, honey, child, I don't even talk like that.
I say the same thing.
I feel like, but there's a missing.
Corey, if you're a man who thinks you're a woman, at some point in time you have to get a prostate exam. So we can go ahead and throw all that out. That you think that you
I don't disagree, but I just feel like it's okay to talk about where did that come from, and don't try to act like this is some kind of. But we got some mad scientists around here. Like you gonna really try to tell me that you feel me, but you don't bleed every month. I would say if you could bleed every month, then we may be able to talk. But that's a real struggle, and you don't want to wear no damn high heels, and you don't want to wear a face full of makeup when you got a period. Like that's just like not the thing that you want to do. You're not in that zone. Yeah. So I feel like we haven't made room to have that real conversation, because I feel like you don't bully me. I think those groups, they bully the shit out of people. They're bullies, and you know that black folks have issues, that we're definitely descendants of enslaved people, and that y'all try to do a job on us, and some of us are fighting you back like, no, you don't get to treat me like that.
Yeah.
I could just cut you off by not seeing you, because what I learned about the powers to be, they hate to be ignored. That's why all this shit got started in the first place. It's like they couldn't just stay over in their island. They had to go out in the world and mess with people. So, brother, thank you so much for being on the show. But I think that's real. You have a brother on here, Ryan McClinton.
I know Ryan.
Yeah, so he's been commenting. He said we really do struggle with these conversations, because a lot of us haven't learned our trauma triggers, and uncomfortable conversations flare up and too much, and we will shut down. You ain't never lied. Yeah. But this ain't for the shutdown crew. We family. So when you family, I may sit there and be like this, but I'm going to be listening. You know what I'm saying? I think just don't get up. I tell our people, don't get up, because healing is on the way. I feel like when you start feeling like this, that's that little whatever. I don't care if you was 10 or 12 or whatever. That's that person trying to get some help. Yeah. But you have to have courage to be like, well, I'm just saying. And then after a while, you know, that's what old people can sit with you for a while. Yeah. Old people be like, well, I got time. Sit down. I ain't going nowhere. Because they're going to make sure you calm down. Then they're going to find out, well, why is you acting like that? Yeah. We don't have that.
Identification and like I said, most people have inability to properly self-assess.
That's real talk.
So teaching those things right along with critical thinking to children, I think, is huge. Being able to identify what it is that you're feeling. Yes. And actually, that's what stresses the importance of reading and literacy. So you actually can learn the words and the terms to express the feelings that you are. Mm-hmm. The different exercises, maybe if you're using colors or imagery to directly, so what are you feeling? Where are you at? So you can they can start identifying that I'm angry. No, you're actually not angry. You're hungry and you feel really irritable. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, and so I'm sad. Well, there's a difference between being sad and being depressed.
That's real talk.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like actually being able to properly assess where you are, what you're feeling, where you're at, and being able to identify and then relay that information to somebody else, I think is huge.
Thank you, brother. And on that note, we're going to sign out of here. I'll be back tomorrow with Sister Dana's Sunday Sitting with Sisters. We're going to talk about a few things tomorrow.
You gave us a compliment.
Well, you know what? Let me just wrap this up. Okay. We'll keep going. You know what I'm saying? So thank you all. See you tomorrow morning at 9:30 or 9 in between that time, y'all, because, you know, we next to a church. We try to get it in before the church get it in, and then we'll be up in Sunday sermon. So in the words of our great ancestor, Marcus Garvey, up you mighty nation, accomplish what you will. Peace. Peace.